nerfed again.
Good, fuck him. Put him in the dirt.
It's
piece
the
of
jungle
shit.
that got nerfed, so he won't do as much damage over time to jungle camp.
Minions.
Yeah, to the jungle camps anymore.
What about lane minions?
That's still there. that's not good anyway.
Come on, man. Dude, he's like insane, dude. He just uses one AoE attack and he kills the whole wave. Like he just stands there like he fucking did something special, you know?
Well, I think Zyra is the one who's going under the radar. I hate laning against Zyra. She's literally the worst laning against, in my opinion.
Yeah, she takes some skill though, I would say, and that kind of balances her inherently. Like I feel like if you run into a good Zyra, I know what you mean, but we don't often run into a good Zyra, I guess is what I would say.
True, yeah.
But wait, so was this on the patch yesterday that came out?
No, this is a new patch. They Spider.
They're already talking about like the next patch?
Yeah, Spider X, he always gets like the jump on like the patches coming out, so he posts it on Twitter. That's the only thing I have on Twitter that like goes to my phone is when he posts something, because I'll be trying to know what's going on.
Well, anything else?
That's it.
Varus getting any more? Anything else?
No, that's it. That's all he posted so far. Was that? Oh wait,
yeah,
Lilia's getting nerfed.
Who?
Lilia, she's getting nerfed for her passive damage to jungle camps.
Okay, move speed?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I mean, they said that they were going to do this. So before they nerfed, you remember they're supposed to nerf Leandries and Blackfire, and they said before they did that, me and Jet made this argument too, that we don't think it's the item, we think it's the champions that use the item that need to get nerfed. And so far, the two things that he dropped so far are people who use Leandries and Blackfire, which is Lilia and obviously Brand.
I just hate Leandries, bro. I just like I don't
think you should proc.
It's like if you get,
I don't think you should be able to proc with Leandries, or not Leandries, but Rylai's the slow. I don't think you should be able to proc with that item.
I don't think you should be able to stack Blackfire with it either. Like
I think it should be a choice.
Like you know how ADC items have like you can only have one of a type, right? Like the armor penetration type or something. Do mages not have the same thing? Because that seems crazy to me that you have the same item that basically does the same fucking thing.
They do not have the same
and you can
thing.
stack them.
They do not have the same thing. You can still stack them. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, that seems crazy to me. I mean, I don't know exactly what Blackfire does, but it's very similar to Leandries. Like they both do damage over time, don't they? If you hit with an ability.
Yes.
But it's like a different amount.
Yeah. Leandries scales off of the HP or the missing HP, I believe, or max HP of the enemy.
Okay.
And then Blackfire.
The other one's AP.
I think it's just AP, just like pure AP. How much AP you have
scales off AP. Okay. Yeah. See, that's. I guess they would argue that that's two different classes of item, but it's not working as intended. You're stacking both, and you're just burning twice as much.
Yeah, they both use Fate of Ashes, in my opinion. So I think it should be a one to other type situation, in my opinion. But maybe they know more than me. I don't know.
Well, the way you used to not be able to stack Zeal. Like
you can stack Zeal now, but.
You can now, but you used to not be able to, and I've actually had a hard time getting that out of my head because I'm like, I look at items now and I'm like, oh, I already have a Zeal item, and it's like, oh, wait, I can stack it. It doesn't matter.
Especially on Jhin, because all attack speed, transforms to attack damage.
Damage, yeah. But yeah, no, that's interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I was hoping for a Varus, maybe one more little Varus buff. Nothing big, but. He still kind of feels like he's not all the way there, to a spot where he's competitive. But I guess he's not terrorizing pro play, so they accomplish what they set out to do.
Yeah.
Fuck the rest of us with that. But nah. Well, Montrell, everybody, welcome to The Player's Sake, episode 285. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined as always, of course, that you've heard him already, by my co-host, Montrell Rice. Montrell, outside of league patch notes, how are you doing this week?
Doing very well. I need a week. This is my vacation week, obviously.
Look at this guy.
Yeah,
I need this. Weeks and weeks of I'm tired. Fuck this. Oh, terrible. And then he gets a week off from work, and man, he's energized, just re-energized.
I haven't had a week off literally since February. That was my last time I had a week off.
Jesus Christ. It's
Yeah,
like 6 months. Holy
yeah.
shit.
I went out.
I usually try not to go more than 4 or
So,
5
so
with nothing.
exact.
Yeah.
I agree. So there was a unique situation where I thought I was going to get that same amount of like rest and fun when I went back to Michigan, but obviously that trip back to Michigan was not
Mm,
fun or relaxing. I was sick. I was dealing with family issues and
gotcha.
all that shit like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that didn't count. And yeah,
Okay.
so but I'm on vacation
Here
this
you
week,
are.
and it's crazy how much a week of doing absolutely nothing feels. I went to the
Oh, you're actually like relaxing. You're playing games. You're not
yeah.
like, you're not like filling your days with other shit right
Yeah,
now.
I went to the range. I went hiking. I worked out, a couple of days. Um I planned on going fishing today, but I was like, fuck it. I don't feel like planning all that. Well, it's not really a planning thing. I
Hmm.
just didn't feel like going fishing. I might go
Yeah.
back to the range tomorrow, or I might go fishing. Um and then on the weekend I'm probably just gonna chill again. That's pretty much it. Um I don't know, man. It's felt really good. I turned my phone off, or not my phone, but I turned all apps related to
Notifications.
my work. I turned it off because actually my
Fuck yeah.
boss, my manager told me to. She's like, you need to turn everything off so you won't look at, because I will look at my chats and stuff like that to see what's going on, see what's missing. But I did that this time and I absolutely have not looked at it.
No, you got to do it, man. I started doing that a couple years ago, and I if it's like a shorter vacation where I take like 1 or 2 days
Yeah.
off on a weekend, I might not do it. But like if I'm taking a full week, yeah, no, the notifications are off.
Yeah.
There's no notifications happening because yeah, no, there's no other way. Like you're just gonna see it. You're just gonna see it on your like you're gonna look at your phone and you're gonna see Outlook and you're gonna see the fucking email, header, and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on? And then you're gonna click on it and you're gonna be like, fuck me, why did I look at that?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
So I'm
you just can't do it,
But I
man. You
did
just
make
gotta turn them
sure
off.
I set myself up for this week, right? I prepared for this week. I made sure that everything was in place to where they will not need me. So I set everything up like Friday. My Friday was really crazy, or Thursday and Friday was really crazy for me. Uh, Before I took the week off or whatever, because I was
Hmm.
just trying to get all that in order. And I was like, if I do this, if I do all this stuff, everybody have everything in place where they just don't fucking need me for at least a week or two until I come back. And that's what happened. So far, like my boss hasn't called me, none of my teammates have called me, nobody reached out to me, and I'm loving it. Like normally I'd be like, "Oh, nobody needs me." I'm like, "Well, fuck off. I don't care. I don't fucking care if you don't need me this time."
Yeah.
So
Oh, good, man. Good, 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 good. All right. Well, cool. I'm excited to get into the show here. All right. Well, for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter at The Player's Take, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right, one announcement before we get into this show. I think I mentioned this last week, but I will be out of town next week. So, Montrell, you will be doing the show solo, or you can see if DJ is available. Without me, I'm going to be flying in when you're recording next week, basically. So yeah, I will not be back in time for the show, but yeah, so I'll be gone next week, but I'll be back the week after. All right, Montrell, you said you had a little topic you want to talk about before we get into the rest of the
yeah,
show.
so I haven't been playing Helldivers recently, but so there's like two things. The first thing is I guess the community's mad again at the company or whatever. And at first I was like, what like why are y'all bitching at this damn company? But I think it was something that we talked about before with Helldivers. How they were oh, it's me and Jed actually, but you were in the conversation too. But they nerfed like they keep nerfing weapons that players are using.
Yeah.
Um they're finding like players are using these weapons like, okay, well, this is the new meta now or whatever the case, and then they just nerf them to the ground. And it's like
Mm.
normally I wouldn't care. Normally I would be like, okay, cool, I don't really need a meta or whatever the case may be, right? But the problem is I haven't played in a couple months, but there were only certain weapons that were effective against certain things and things of that nature.
Mm.
And if you're just nerfing everything, I don't think the answer is to nerf everything. I think the answer is to buff everything else, if that makes any sense. And I think the community has been saying that as well. Like, we just want to have fun. We don't care. Like, a lot of people that are playing this game aren't really like meta whores. They're just like, this is the most things that's effective, and like they just want to have fun. Um, I don't think Helldivers has a community like League or a community like Overwatch or a community like, Final Fantasy 14 or WoW, where we analyze the numbers. We're like, oh, this does this much damage over time. They don't really do that,
Yeah.
right? Like they just,
Yeah.
I think the Helldivers community is there are damage numbers that they look at, but they do it at a way more tamer level. So I don't think the answer to um solving this issue is, oh, we want to make the game harder. Like a lot of people are playing Helldivers, they're like our age and they're getting off of work. They just want to play the game. The game. They don't want to sweat and try hard all the
Yeah.
time. So I don't know, how do you feel about that.
Yeah.
Like,
So I think I've talked about this before, right? And I use Grim Dawn as my example, which is an ARPG like Diablo.
mhm,
But it's a strictly, not strictly, but it's mostly a single player ARPG. It has multiplayer, but it doesn't have servers, so it's hard to play multiplayer. You're not really playing with random people, meaning that majority of the player base, I'd say probably 95% of it is playing solo,
mhm,
and that means it's a single player game. You're just playing the game. You're playing against the game. You're not competing against anybody else. You're not interacting with anybody else. Your item drops aren't affecting anybody else. And in a game like that, Crate, I love Crate. They're a great developer, and I love the passion they have for their game. But their um zealousness, I guess I'll say, with balance around classes and itemization and everything, the amount of adjustments they would make to items and masteries and devotions and everything over the years. For the first few years of the game's life, I didn't have a huge problem with it, but as I got deeper into it and was playing it, 5 years after it came out, and they're still going, bro. They're still releasing balance patches, and then because the way that game worked, at least for the way they would balance things, is they would often they had their own ways of tracking things, but they would often see on their forums the popular builds that people would craft, the ones that are like completely OP, broken, wreck shit. And they would balance sometimes, and this wasn't exclusively the way they balanced. I just want to be clear about that. They had other methods that they used to balance items and stuff like that. But this was one of the probably the most obvious and easy ones for them to target, were these OP super powerful builds. And these are like the best builds in the game, literally, like if you were ranking them, like these would be in the top 5 or 10, type builds in terms of how quickly they killed shit, how unkillable they were, etc. Right.
mhm,
And Crate had a desire, they have a certain desire for balance for their game, right? So they would nerf these builds. But the way Grim Dawn works is you pick two masteries and you combine them together to make your class, basically. And what that creates is this situation where builds become casualties of these nerfs, So let's say the OP build uses the soldier and the demolitionist, at a certain point, and they nerf the soldier into the ground. Some parts of the soldier build, they nerf it into the fucking ground, right?
mhm,
So that ends up affecting the other builds that use the soldier, mastery. Like there's 7 other masteries that can combine with soldier. All of those take a hit because they decided to balance soldier. So obviously I think they know this, obviously, and they would kind of take they would usually try to hit the items that the build would use and things like that, because that's more niche and usually doesn't have as much overlap as hitting a mastery, but they still would hit masteries sometimes. And I remember there were distinct points where I had crafted a build that like I had never heard of anybody using. It was kind of just some concoction that I made up myself, and it was pretty effective. Like it was an effective build. I could kill pretty much. I could do all the content in the game almost. There were like a couple bosses that I couldn't beat, but those were like the super hardcore like challenge bosses. I could do most of the rest regular content in the game, no issue, which is really all I was trying to accomplish with the build. And I just remember a couple patches. There was like a 3-patch cycle where some of the abilities I was using, they had identified as issue abilities with some of these OP builds, and they nerfed all of them, and it ended up kind of gutting my character to the point where like the character sucked for a while, like it just like I couldn't do some of the content I used to be able to do, literally, like with the way I had my character built. And it was just really frustrating. Eventually, I pretty much quit playing the game for a long time. I came back to it, a year or two after that, and things had happened in the meta as such that they ended up buffing those abilities again, and or buffing other abilities that I was using, and kind of ended up compensating for some of those nerfs, but that took a long time to happen. And it's just a frustrating cycle to be in, right? Because I understand you want your game to feel a certain way, right? You want a certain difficulty, and this is where I'll get into the Helldivers, right? I understand the developers want Helldivers to have a certain level of difficulty, right? I get it. I totally understand, right? You want the hardest difficulties to be extremely difficult, like almost so hard that no one can beat them, right? But the way they design the game as such is that grinding at the same level over and over again ultimately has very little purpose,
Yeah,
at a certain point. You're just trying to get to the next level, right? Like that's the whole point of the game, is kind of difficulty pushing. You're trying to push the difficulties to see how far you can go. That's like the fun of the game, and that's where the challenge is. So when you nerf these weapons and you end up kind of making them worthless in the function they had, it it makes me wonder, like, was that making the game so much easier that it was trivial? Like, it didn't sound like it from what I understand. So like, could they have not taken the opposite approach where they buff the enemies that weapon is trying to deal with in some way, like make them have slightly more armor or slightly more health or something to compensate, to try and like reduce the effectiveness of that weapon rather than gutting the weapon,
yeah,
because the weapon is what the player plays with. That's the fun. That's where you get the fun in the game, right? Is using that weapon. Whereas buffing the enemy has a different, it makes things harder, but it's not as overt, right? You're not in direct control of an enemy. Like you're fighting it, you can sense those buffs and stuff like that, but it's usually probably something you may be able to overcome with skill. Whereas with the weapon getting nerfed, depending on how severe the nerfs are, no amount of skill is gonna overcome that. Numbers are numbers. At a certain point, the math just doesn't add up anymore. You know, and I don't think I think companies sometimes get a little too cocksure in how they approach balance in their games, and they don't really take their community's opinion into account. I feel like Crate does this. Like Crate's the same way, right? Like when people complain about everything getting nerfed into the ground, and they'll come in sometimes and they'll kind of be like, look, dude, it's not reasonable for us to buff everything else, in to bring it up to this level. And that's true to a certain degree, but then sometimes there's those like sarcastic responses or snarky responses where they're like, oh, here we go, the whiners are back again. And it's like, dude, like, okay, but if all I play is one character, and like I made one character in Grimdawn and that's all I play, and this is like my pride and joy, I created this build and it's like some niche build that no one on the forums has ever fucking posted before, and it's like I get sideswiped because I happen to use some of the abilities that the most OP shit in the game uses. It's like that's not fun or fair, necessarily. It's like, so I don't know how you solve that problem, but there's got to be more tact to it than that, than like making fun of your players for whining about their build getting nerfed. It's like, part of the fun of the game is the power fantasy of actually being powerful, and it's like when you take that away to the point where everything's a struggle, it's like the game's not fun anymore. ARPGs are supposed to be this way. Like they're supposed to get to a point where you're a fucking unkillable juggernaut, like that's the fun of an ARPG. That is kind of the player power curve, like you're supposed to be able to get there. That's how most ARPGs have always played. And yeah, there always is that challenge that's like so hard that like almost no build can do it comfortably. But that's like the extreme end of the spectrum, So I don't know. I don't progress like tweaking, like pulling those balance levers is important in any game. Like that feel does matter. Like I don't want to like downplay that the balance of the game does impact the enjoyment of it, and it's a very abstract concept that like players aren't consciously aware of, generally speaking. But at the same time, it's a very like, it's like a tightrope, like you are kind of on a really thin line of like, if you go too far in one direction, you either ruin the fun or you make it so easy that it's not
Well,
fun, you know?
so the thing with Helldivers is like even when me and Jet had a meta, right? Like we were doing the railgun meta, the railgun with the shields meta. It was still, or the personal shield, I believe it's called. It was still not broken. It evened the odds, if that makes any sense. Because the builds in the Helldiver, the weapons that you use and everything, you can easily get overwhelmed. So it's not like you can just come in there and just blow everything up with one if you have this OP weapon building.
Right. That's my understanding
Yeah,
of it, is that there's still, even though these weapons are powerful, like there's still skill
yeah.
involved.
You need to learn how to maneuver around the map. Watch your
Right.
back and everything because and then if fucking Joe gets a hold of you, if he's the game master that day, then he can just spawn more shit on you. So it's like the game is. So that's why I have an issue with the balancing in Helldivers. Like it's not like a Destiny thing or anything like that. It's like it's a legitimate issue to where like this is a strictly PVE game, and the E version of the game is really hard and it's really fun and satisfying when you solve it
Mm,
or whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Um, I don't think I don't even think buffing the enemies. It's one of those rare cases where I do understand why you would say, like, on your side, Justin, for the Grim Down, like you'll buff the enemies. I don't even think buffing the enemies is the solution. I just think making other items that are weak better would be the solution because that way you'll get a plethora of
More
more
variety.
variety and stuff like
Right.
that.
More ways to tackle a problem.
Exactly.
Well, do you think that Helldivers has a fundamental issue though in the way it's built, because the game, it has this illusion of this war going on, right? Like, and that has to be constantly going for the game to have any content, right?
Yes.
Like, if you win the, if like let's say you won the war, the game is over. Like the game, so you can't win the war, right? So they can do all this shit to create this illusion of like, oh, they're taking over this system, oh, they're getting closer to Earth, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, we know the game's not going to end, you know? It's like, so it does, I don't know, it's like you almost box yourself into a
Yeah,
corner with
so
that,
I
where
think they need to focus on player progression a little bit more. And when I say player progression, I don't mean like, oh, you got to pay for these, like, not like that. Because this is a paid game, by the way. So I think they need to redistribute or rework the weapons to where you can customize the weapons or even the armor to where you can build the character that you want to build. Now, I'm not saying like Diablo esque or anything like that, but maybe a little bit like of tweaking of the armor to you can make the character that you're playing your own character, the weapon that you're making your own weapon. You can have like maybe little tiny weapon trees. It doesn't have to be super crazy. It can almost be akin to Destiny, like how the first iterations of Destiny where it wasn't really too crazy, but it was like you can pick between these three choices or whatever. I think they should do something like that just to keep the player engaged in it. As far as the campaign or something of that nature, I think they need to have weekly campaigns on like maybe we do end the war or whatever, but like it starts up again next week as a different type of war. They need more enemy types, in my opinion. I think they need to introduce. Right now, they only have the automatons and the bugs. They haven't introduced the alien. I forgot their names. That was in Helldivers 1. They haven't introduced them yet. And they
yeah,
haven't introduced any.
they tease them,
Yeah,
right?
they teased them, but
But
they haven't introduced them yet. And I think they need to just introduce more enemy types and or enemy varieties. That way, you can have events where you won against the bugs this week, and now you're going against the automatons next week, and or maybe you did take over everything from Super Earth, or they actually took over Super Earth, and now you're starting from the inside and you're trying to work your way out, from the inside of the galaxy and work your way out from Super Earth. I think that would be actually really cool, a really cool concept as well. It's certain things they can do to keep the game thriving. So that being said, the second part of this is um I don't get on Twitter often anymore, but when I do get on Twitter, now my algorithm is, since I don't get on it often, I might check it once a week for game news. Now my algorithm is all video game shit now, which I actually like. It's not a whole bunch of political shit or drama or anything like that.
right.
So the one time I did get on, I actually marked it on my phone to talk about it, and someone were talking about um player count numbers. And they were like, "Oh my god, the Helldivers is the biggest flop of the year. It went from 500,000 players to 20 to 30,000 concurrent players a week or whatever, but the case may be. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's actually pretty good. Like, I'm like, am I crazy for thinking? And this is not just Helldiver centric. There are other games that are having like concurrently 20 to 30 to 50,000 players concurrently, and I think that's okay. I think like in their initial surge may have been fucking huge, right? But then like it dropped down to that, and it's like it's steady that, and I don't know. I don't think for certain games, I don't think that's bad. Now, if it's like League of Legends or something like that, that's pretty bad. Or if it's like Apex or something like that, that's pretty bad as well. But I think like certain
Yeah, but
games, like I don't know, maybe
yeah,
like DayZ or fucking Helldivers, obviously for instance, like a lot of the PVE games, um, I don't think that's a bad concurrent number, and I think we need to look at that. Like, I think people are so caught on like Call of Duty numbers that we have to realize that
yeah.
we were talking about the execs doing this, right? Where we not every game's gonna do Call of Duty numbers, but I feel like the players now are like, if you're not doing Call of Duty numbers, you're a flop. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, do you
Yeah.
know what a flop is, my guy? Like, I don't know.
Well, also you have to think about who made the game. Arrowhead, like they're tiny compared to like Epic or fucking the Call of Duty studios or fucking Respawn or like this is like some small second party studio, for PlayStation. Like this is a massive success for them. Yeah, sure, selling 15 million copies of your game and only having 30K concurrents probably does feel bad to a certain degree, but it's not like those players are gone for good. Like that, just drop some content and the you'll be able to get huge spikes, I'm sure. So I don't think the game's dead at all. I wouldn't say it's
Well,
dead.
that only that, but it's not a free
Helldiver's.
to play game. You bought the game, so
Right.
that
Right.
15 million or whatever. That's $40 times 15 million. So they have
Yeah. It's huge.
yeah, a huge amount of money coming in. Not to mention the tiny microtransactions. It's not that big of a deal, but I mean they do have little microtransactions in there. So I don't know. I just feel like I feel like back in the day, and maybe because like 20,000 was a lot because the player base was significantly smaller, like back in 2010, 2015 or whatever. Um, I still don't think 20,000 is like a bad number to have. Like I said, maybe if League of Legends, right? Maybe well, definitely for League of Legends, and I'd say definitely for like games like Fortnite, and definitely for free to play games. I think 20,000 is like really bad, unless you're like a really small free to play game. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
but I think games that you have to buy into and things of that nature, and yeah, like Halo may like let's just say for instance, Halo 6 comes out, whatever, and it sells 5 million copies first week, or first 6 months it sells, I don't know, 20 million copies or something like that, right? 25 million copies. And now after that first year or the next year, it's like maybe 50K or 100K. I don't think that's a bad audience. Like I don't think that's bad in my
Hmm.
opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I think people are. I don't. I think the people you're talking about on Twitter are just they don't really understand video games. They definitely don't understand the context of certain games. Like the context around Helldivers matters. The studio who made it matters. It's like in that case, like you're right. If League of Legends was down to 20K concurrents, yeah, bro, that's a problem for Riot.
Yeah.
Like they have like a fucking 1,000 developers or
Yeah.
something like they're huge. They're a humongous fucking studio. Like that would be a massive problem for them. They're a fucking global company, so yeah, that would be an issue. But yeah, like it's just like Arrowhead's one team, very small. Do they even have 100 developers? They probably do now, but
I
did they
think they
before the game
just
came out?
got to
Like,
100. I think, yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're fucking tiny, dude. So yeah, they can definitely live with 30,000 players at a time. And like I said, they're in a content drought right now. I don't think anything major's dropped for Helldivers in a while.
Well,
And
it's just weird because I remember when like, and this is like back in my day, but it is like a back in my day situation. It's like I remember like Ratchet and Clank Deadlock, right? Will only have like maybe 2 or 3,000 players concurrently online. and like people love that game online, but it was only like maybe 2,000 players online or whatever. You
Yeah.
know, like I think that was okay. Monster Hunter, the original Monster Hunter for the PS1, for the PS2 rather, maybe 3 to 4,000 players concurrently online in the American side. I'm not talking about Japanese; it's probably crazy over there in Japan. But for the American side, it was maybe only 3 to 4,000 players because the game was not that popular. You know what I'm saying? And I think even now, if there's only 20,000 Monster Hunter players in Monster Hunter World, I think that's still really fucking good. Because that's a, first of all, it's a paid game, so they got their money up front as far as what they're doing. And then second off, um, the game's still going, and it's not even a live service game. And you know what I'm saying? Like 20,000 to keep 20,000 players on a non-live service game that's not free to play. I mean, it is a live service game, but it's not, right? You can play that completely offline if you want to. It's almost like Grim Dawn in the sense, right? So like, um, for Rise and like even Monster Hunter World, but I'm gonna use Rise. I think Rise still has like a lot of players online, and that's in separate ecospheres, right? Because Monster Hunter World and and Rise are not back or crossplay at all. So you may have 20,000 players in Xbox, 50,000 players on PlayStation, you know, and then 50 to 40 to 50,000 on the Switch or whatever. And I think that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even if it wasn't like that, even if it was only on one console and they sold all that money or they sold all that and they had that one console still, I still think 20 to 50,000 players would still be an okay thing. I think this is why companies are hesitant to release player number or player counts because of people like this to sensationalize player numbers. Like there's a time and a place to do that. Like for instance, if Warzone right just went down to 20K players, there's an issue there. Like we need to examine the issue. If not League of Legends, but Apex went down to 20, they're hovering around 100,000 to 150,000, give or take, right? Now if they went down to 20,000, like yeah, even that's kind of bad, right? But even if they went down to
that's low, dude.
Even if they went down to 20,000 players, I mean, no, if they did go down 20,000 players or 50,000, shit, even 75,000, they're in a different spot because it's a free to play game and all their money is reliant on microtransactions and returning player base.
Context matters again, right? The context of a battle royale is different from the context of a 4-player squad game, right? You need 60 players to make an Apex match. So divide that number by 60, you know, like let's take the 100K as an example. That divided by 60 is, let's see, 100,000 divided by 60. Couldn't do this math in my head. 1,666 games. That's not a lot when you really think about it.
Yeah, that's not.
Like, so for a BR, yeah, 100K is low. Especially if the game has 100 players per match. If it's 100 players per match, then you only have 1,000 matches going at a time.
Well,
you know,
okay, my mistake, y'all. I just checked the numbers. It's peaking at around 250,000 for Apex Legends.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then they're okay. Yeah. They're fine.
But yeah, but that's even more interesting because I didn't think about it. You got to think about divisions. You got to think about ranks. You got to think about MMR and all that stuff like that.
Well, different platforms, right? If they're not crossplay.
Exactly. Even like that number would be even more skewed and chopped up, right? Whereas like,
well, different queues too, right? You have duos, then you have trios. That's all chopped up. You know, those are all getting chopped up. Then you have your deathmatch mode or the limited time modes they're doing. They're chopping those numbers up even further. So at a specific time, it might feel bad. There might only be like 500 straight unranked BR games going on at a time.
Exactly.
You know? Which is why the matchmaking might not be that fast.
Exactly.
You know? Or something like that. So it's the same thing in League, right? Like League has like a bunch of different modes. And matchmaking has gotten really bad on League lately, like fucking horrendous. I mean, we've had 10-minute queues.
They patched. I mean, they didn't patch that, but they patched. They said they did some patch. I think you should read the patch notes when you get a chance. Or you did, didn't you?
Yeah. They mentioned matchmaking.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. I think context matters when it comes to player count, and I think posting the tweet, on Twitter or on Reddit. This is the part where this is why I like Reddit a little bit more than. Now, don't get me wrong, Reddit has its own fucking issues. Woo. But a lot of the context as far as like games and stuff like that goes a little bit deeper on Reddit than it does on Twitter. I think people on video game Twitter are legit idiots, like bar none. And I don't mean that in a like. Well, I do mean it in a meaning way, but I'm also like mean it sincerely. Like I sometimes when I look at people tweet certain shit and they be like really popular accounts for certain things or whatever, they legitimately don't know what they're talking about, but their follower count gives them this arrogance that they do know what they're talking about, and it's just very annoying. But yeah, I don't know. That was my pet peeve. We've been going on this for about 35 minutes, so I'll let it go. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it though.
All good.
That's my icebreaker.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's get into the show proper. Let's start with games we've been playing. Montrell, let's just get the league chat out of the way first. League's been fun. It's been not fun.
Yeah,
there've been some bad nights. We had like two or three bad nights in a row, man.
It was that last
brutal.
week. That was last week, right?
No, that was
this week.
Yeah, it was like Sunday into Monday,
Okay.
into Tuesday. It was fucking brutal, bro. I will say some of this was like I said, I told you guys, like I went and watched some of the games. Some of this was our fault.
100%.
Like, we just weren't playing. We were not playing well. I can we talking about main character syndrome. Jet's main character syndrome is poking through him a little bit on the support side. I don't know if you caught this was Sunday. I think I was getting really frustrated with him on Sunday because he kept doing this every game where like our lane would be a farm lane and like the enemy team were being pussies and we weren't pushing in and we weren't having any success like actually like trying to get kills. So he's like, man, I feel like I'm not doing anything here. I'm just gonna go roam. And it's like, what? No, don't roam. Like, what do you mean? Don't no. Like, and then like I start dying because he's not there. It's like, and I can't like the lane was pushed out, so I can't even peek out before they fucking jump on me and I'm dead. You know? And that happened like games in a row, where he would do that. And then he starts making comments about like, oh, I gotta stick on Justin's asshole. It's like, bro, like, what do you want me to do, man? Like, you want me to just hide under the tower and like get half the CS the opponent is while they're poking me and shit? Like, the support's got to be there at certain points. This isn't like norms, man. Like, we were playing ranked. You know, people aren't fucking around here. Like, they're not playing casual. Like, if they see an opening, they're gonna fucking take it. And I'm playing Varus. I can't jump away. Like it's like, so there was some frustration building for sure. But some of it was on me too. There were some plays I made. Like I stayed in fights that I shouldn't have stayed in. There were some times where I was like, he got caught, with like half HP, like got like, like a grab, like a pike grab or something. And I went all the way in and I almost got a double kill, but I ended up dying. I didn't kill either person, know, and he died too. And we just fed 2 kills. I should have just let him die, So there's mistakes like that happening too. There were some issues with vision sometimes where I'm just like not looking at the map. I know for a fact, like I wasn't paying attention to the map. And I like let myself get ganked from behind with that. Like, we had vision. I just didn't look, it's like shit like that. So it's like, I'm trying to focus up more, it's like, it's just, this is why I don't like playing norms, because you don't have to play the game very well in order to have an effective game, whereas I feel like with ranked, that's not true. Like, you really need to be locked in, you know? Most people, like, I do have to hand it to the league player base. I will say, like, the people we're playing against, maybe we're playing against people that are better than we should be playing against, in terms of our skill level. But like, these people aren't fucking around. Like, they're trying to win the game, dude. Like, they're playing it for real, and we got to approach it that same way. And I think sometimes it's just, you get like, you're playing norms and then you jumped into ranked and you play a whole night of norms and then you jump into ranked and you're just like not in the mindset.
You're not locked in.
You're not locked in.
I agree. Right? I wish there was a way for us to play ranked, all 3 of us to play ranked, without the flex queue.
Yeah. Without the 10-minute flex queue. Yeah.
But I mean, after that terrible night, or the terrible couple nights we've had, had a philosophy now. I get off as soon as I lose. Like if I lose one ranked game or whatever, I just get offline. And
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it starts a streak or whatever of losing because you're frustrated, right?
Well, you
Yeah, you
tilt. Yeah.
tilt. So if I lose a game, I would get off for an hour. Maybe I'll work out or like stretch out or something like that. Then I get back on the game, or I'll play another game for about an hour or two. I'll watch a TV show or something like that. Um, and then I may jump back on or whatever, depending on how I feel or whatever. Because like Jet last night said he's getting on or whatever. I won 3 ranked games in a row, and then he posted like I'm getting on in 10 minutes, and I just lost the game. So I was like, I'm not getting on anymore. Like I was like, I didn't want to get on anymore.
I just decided not to play last night. I was like, I got to take a night off.
Yeah, I just
like,
played solo, but I mean, ever since I've done that, I'm climbing. Like, I'm climbing now. I think the patch did kind of help. I'm saying this, knock on wood. Uh, I did notice some stuff. And I know how to build with Silas now a little bit better. I'm having my plateaus where I go up with them, I go down with them, but I just won like 5 games straight with them today. So I think I know how to build them now and how to play with them. And the patch that those little tiny buffs did actually help a lot.
yeah.
But I think it was more so placebo in my opinion, but they did help a little bit. And then the matchmaking itself. So I didn't know what they were doing was for off roll. When you see someone like before this patch, right? When you saw someone that said off roll, that mean they never played that. That wasn't even their secondary. That was their third dairy or their fourth.
Yeah, they got
Yeah,
filled.
they got filled, like completely filled.
Yeah.
Now
And that's a nightmare.
Yeah, and so now they're doing it where their second roll is their off roll, which it should have been like that in the first fucking place. I don't know why.
Wait, so how did it work then?
It was
What was the secondary role? Like
that was still your main role.
That was considered your main
in
role?
the main client, not on the other apps or anything. In the main client, that was still considered your main role. So if I was
so you had two main roles. If I pick bot and top, it considers top one of my main roles. That's insane, dude.
Yep.
What?
So now
That
they're
makes no
considering your secondary role as your off role, which I thought that was like that the entire time. But when we were going to get,
seems like obvious. That's the way it should be.
So the other thing was, which I noticed too. I don't know if you noticed it, but you remember how we used to always complain about the uneven, the unbalanced, like player matchmaking. Like it seems like our players, like when we get people on our side on the map or whatever, they would just be fucking terrible or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So the game was trying to accommodate them by putting them off roll. So let's say when I say off roll, I mean third roll. Before this patch, so it's putting them in their third roll, completely auto-filled. And on top of that, it was like putting us on the harder side of the map, quote unquote. So it was putting all the quote unquote good players on the other side of the map on their off rolls. So we're all playing champions except for a couple of us. Maybe 2 of us are playing our mains. Everybody else is playing champions. They even the role they don't play and a champion they don't play in ranked against players that are on the other side of the map, on role and playing their mains. So that's why it was such a stark difference, because the old version, the old map of League, there was a bit of a skew, edge. If you're on like the bottom side of the map rather than the top side of the map, I believe. Yeah, the left side of the map rather than the right side. The right side was the harder side of the map, and then the left side of the map was the easier side of the map. Yeah, they finally changed it because the map is essentially even now. Objectives are essentially even. Grubs on the top side of the map, I think really made things even as far as like objective wise, because you get 2 spawns of grubs and you get the fucking Rift Herald. And then dragon, obviously you get a dragon every 6 minutes or whatever. So it's like it made both sides of the map valuable now. Whereas like the left side of the map was invaluable because it only spawned Rift Herald and then Baron. Whereas like the right side of the map, everybody wanted that side of the map because you had direct access to, even though it was a wall right there, you still had direct access to the dragon. You can just hop over the wall and you're on the dragon.
Or you could flash over it, you can jump over it, you could whatever. Plenty of characters can get over that wall. So it actually gave the blue team an advantage a little bit because they like if they wait to engage the dragon, like the red team gets forced into engaging, they can sit there over the other side of the wall and wait, until it's close to being dead and jump
Yeah,
in. Whereas the red team can't do that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
So yeah, red
yeah,
side was
but
inherently harder, and I think they finally balanced it out. But the thing is, if you had Harry MMR or whatever, uh, you would get put on the red side with like being auto filled. So that's why I think the majority of the games that we lost, we were on red side because we are. I'm not saying that we're like super good players, but I mean, now that they made this change, I don't know. I'm on the fucking winning streak now, but like it made sense to why we were getting the games we were getting. Like it was just crazy. Unless we were going against like super Smurfs or whatever the case may be,
yeah,
or platinum players due to like the matchmaking or some shit like that. But yeah, um, it's only like day 2 of the patch, um, but it feels okay so far.
yeah.
Um, this patch was actually needed, I think, for a lot of champions. Um, and I think the next patch is going to be even better for the brands, the Lilias. They still won't. They still aren't going to touch Yorick, even though I think he's a menace to society right now. Um, but yeah, that's my take.
Um, yeah, I've been playing some Ezreal. He's been fun. He has like a really simple kit. It's pretty much all damage, right? But when you're playing him, I mean everything is a skill shot with him, pretty much. So I feel like he's a really good champion that like everybody in the league should play, you know? Because your effectiveness is totally down to how well you can shoot the skill shots. And like League has so many skill shots in the game, he just feels like a really good champion to like learn the game with, because you're learning skill shots, and how to lead people and where to shoot them, and when to shoot them and all that stuff. Like I think he's a really good character to learn that with. So it's been fun on that end of the things. It's kind of helped me with other characters, but also just him playing him. I'm just having a lot of fun with him. Like his poke is fucking insane in the lane, dude. Like if people aren't paying attention, or aren't very good at dodging or putting themselves in positions where they can't dodge, can't dodge a Q or something, like you just get a lot of free damage out, and his range is such that it's like they can't even poke you, if you don't let them. It's pretty absurd, actually. I feel like Ez is like I kind of understand why they balance him so tightly, because I do feel like in the right hands, man, he's fucking horrifying, in the lane. There have been some lanes where it's just been bully mode, bro. Like they're under their tower, like dying, because it's like I'm just fucking hitting them with everything. Jet's fucking harassing them, and like they just can't do anything. They can't even hit us. So it's like I kind of get where the balance is on the champion, or like why they balance him the way they do, but I will say later in the game, he's really fun too when he starts doing, dude, he starts doing some fucking bonkers damage late game when you get to like 4 or 5 items. You're like 2, 3 shotting people, basically, especially the squishies. And your abilities refresh so quickly, like you are shooting Qs every like half second if you want,
Yeah,
which is pretty nutty. So he's a fun character. I think I'm gonna start playing him in ranked, actually. I'm gonna add him to the ranked repertoire. So that'll give me maybe 5 characters I'm comfortable with in ranked at this point. It's what, Varus, Jin, Vayne, Ez, and then Nyla as well. That would be the 5. So um I think this the other reason I want to play ranked more though is not just the way other people play and the way the game is. I think it's just for us, right? Like for our like chemistry as a group. I feel like we lose our chemistry when we go to norms and then like go back to ranked. Because yeah, I just feel like me and Jed have just been like really not on the same page this last week.
well,
Like
I,
he's going in when I can't go in, or he's going in when I'm nowhere near him, and it's like I have to walk through the entire lane to get to him, and he's dead before I even get there. You know,
yeah, I was gonna say
um,
like I think I don't mind being in the same Discord as y'all. I can play ranked solo and then y'all go into ranked duos. I don't mind that at all.
mhm,
Um, and
yeah,
then maybe like almost at the end of the night, towards the end of the night,
we switch
we switch
off.
off or we just jump into norms or whatever to end the night off or
Yeah,
whatever. But I
yeah,
don't mind that because I think ranked is more fun than norms, just because of the try hardness of it and everything. You kind of want
yeah,
to limit test your your skills with your champion to see how good
Yeah.
you are. You know.
Yeah. Well, okay. I want to ask you a question though, because I feel like I'm crazy, right? Because Jet's very stubborn.
Yeah.
He doesn't generally admit when he's playing poorly, you know. So he makes me feel like I'm the reason we're losing a lot of the time, you know. And like I'm just sitting there sometimes where he's like aggressively going in and he's like go 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 go, you know, and it's like both enemies are at full health. They're closer to their tower than we are. I'm behind our wave and he's like in a bush in front, like we shouldn't be going in those situations, right? Like I don't feel like we should be, you know.
It's
But he's doing it, and then he's like mad that I didn't like fully commit, you know. And I'm like, dude, I'm not like we're not in a position to do this. Like you just want to be aggressive to be aggressive. Like we're not. There's not an advantage here, you know.
yes. So my advice to you is if that's really an issue, like if you guys really try and improve your chemistry and stuff like that, and you know how Jet's
Yeah,
stubborn, I think he's the type of person you have to show proof to. So, like,
yeah,
if you play a game with him, make sure you clip it and then put it in the Discord and like, hey, this is why I did not jump in with you at this particular moment. Or you can analyze it and
yeah.
say, like, maybe I should have jumped in with you at this moment or whatever. But like,
Right.
um, normally as a support, when I was playing support, I normally don't try to go in all the time. I try to go in when I know,
He likes making plays, and
yeah,
I appreciate that, but that's not always the lane,
yeah, yeah.
right?
You
Like
gotta
it's
consider a
yeah,
lot of things like the wave state, abilities, items, and stuff like that,
matchup.
matchups, and everything like
Am
that.
I ahead on CS? Am I behind on CS? Like, do I have more gold? Do we have more gold than the enemies to have? You know, like that matters. You
Yeah,
know, if they have a long sword and like a long sword advantage over me, like that matters in the fight. You
yeah,
know, that makes a difference. You know,
but there is a such thing as being too passive in lane. So it's like you got to figure out the
yeah,
balance. So I can't really say either way.
right. You're not
Yeah,
watching
I'm
us. I
not.
know.
So
Yeah, I know.
only thing I can
I
say is like
like
if you can look at the VOD and be like, hey, um, this is where you told me to go in, and this is why we got double killed, or this is why we got killed here, and let's
yeah.
analyze this together and say like, see where we need to go from here, or whatever the case may be. But I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be more vocal with him. Like when he's like positioning in an aggressive way, I'm like, dude, I'm not close. Like, don't do this. You know, like I'm not in a position to help you right now. Like if you go in right now, like by the time the stun is worn off, I will be getting there to hit an auto attack. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
and sometimes he does be chomping at
um,
the bit for stuns and stuff like that.
yeah, because he does it with Leona and Tarek. Like he really wants to like get in there, and I appreciate that. But dude, if we can't burst somebody down before they're at their tower, like we're diving under tower at that point, and we may or may not get the kill, and then we're just trading a kill too. So it's like, you know, like I want to go for it when we have a clear opportunity to do it. You
Yeah,
know, it's so I don't know. I feel like we've been getting ourselves in trouble, and I will say when I'm playing with him, I tend to be more passive because I know he's going to be aggressive. When I'm playing with you, like I definitely play differently with you because I feel like we're on the same page usually. Like I like you're I don't know, you're like the way you position yourself is different. You know, like you're definitely trying to zone a little bit more than it's just like, you know, you're not necessarily trying to put yourself in a spot to just go in. Like you might
yeah,
just be trying to zone the enemy
and maybe
sometimes.
that's like
You
the
know,
position he needs to take as well. I mean, because support is
no, there are some times where he's like behind me, you know, and I'm sitting there like they're shooting all their poke at me, and I'm like fuck, dude, like you know, and they keep hitting me with shit, and he's like, Justin, stop taking poke, and I'm like, dude, you're not here. Like, you're basically not in the lane. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, they're shooting everything at me. You know, it's like,
yeah.
like I'm trying to see. I got to go up to CS at a certain point, dude. Like, I like there is a predictability to that you can't avoid as an
Yeah,
ADC. You
and
know,
I think that's the
um,
difference between like a low elo support and high elo support. Um,
yeah,
well, I usually watch high elo supports, and they do put themselves in positions to where if you're poking, like if I'm playing Senna, right, and
yeah,
we're Senna Gen, so our objective is we're gonna fucking poke. On that fourth shot,
Yeah.
you're hitting the enemy, you're threatening them. Even if you don't hit them with the fourth shot, it's just the fact that you have the fourth shot.
You're pushing them
Yeah.
out. You're pushing them out.
So
Like, because they're gonna run away from you if you're not hitting
exactly,
them.
and that gives you a better
Right.
opportunity to CS. So I'm going up, and I'm not. My objective is not to engage. My objective is just to scare them off your CS. Now, if I see an opportunity, then I'm going to strike. But I think that's where his mindset needs to be at, as far as like, even when I'm playing Leona, like I would use my W, the absorbed ability that she has, that gives damage mitigation. I would use that sometimes to CS, and then come back or whatever towards you or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or just like the Pokemon lane, because the threat of Leona, because she can go over minions, is so much greater than
Yeah, you don't even need to use
exactly.
it. You just hold it,
Exactly.
and they know you have it, so they're gonna be scared and they're gonna run around. It's really hard to avoid,
Exactly. Exactly.
especially early game. Like, so it's like I feel like he wants to use it on cooldown sometimes. I'm like, I'm like, man,
Well,
we just need the lane to be like,
that's why I like when he played Rail, because Rail had the
yeah,
ability to do what he wanted to do, and then still compensate for what you want him to do as a support. If that
yeah,
made any sense,
right,
I
right,
I thought he was a
right.
lot better with Rail, and even Nami. I think the Leona gives him a little bit too much too much
Well,
power.
he feels. I think the problem I have with Nami's the character where he's behind me and I'm taking all the poke because he feels weak as Nami, like he's really
Mhm.
squishy. So it's like he doesn't want to get hit, but it's like you still gotta be there, man. Like, it's just like I don't know. So I don't know. That's been the issue I've been having, like we've been having this week is just it's a lot of that. I agree with you. I think he's still learning Leona. I don't think he's like quite got it wrapped around,
Yeah,
yet,
yeah,
like how to position with her and what to do. Like you don't have to shoot the what is it? The fucking I don't even know what you call it. The lasso or the
or yeah, the
lash,
little
whatever.
sword that she does.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, this when she throws her sword. Yeah, like you don't have to use that. Like you can just threaten it. It's like like that's a lot of league sometimes. Is like, dude, obviously people are gonna try to avoid me when I'm Jin and I have the fourth shot. But if they avoid me, that means they're walking away from me, which means I got the lane.
yeah, yeah.
It's like so that's great when that happens. It's like even if you're pushing them off it just briefly, it gives you a little bit of breathing room and space.
Well, he also needs to
Um,
learn. I think Romy is really powerful as a support. So I usually roam right when,
but it's when to do
yeah.
it.
So when they're
That's
freezing
what's
under their
key.
tower, that's when I roam, because I'm like, especially if I'm Leona, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
We can't go in. It's a death sentence for me to go in when they're like freezing right, right at that little cutoff point where the tower is at, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I would just ward up, and then I'm gonna go roam a little bit or whatever, because you're free to do what you need to do until that freeze breaks, and then you need to come back. Um, I think
Right.
that's when the roaming, and he does deep ward. I do agree that both of us, even me, I need to help him ward when he's like coming up to mid lane and he's in the
I
river
do
and
too.
stuff like that. So I
I definitely
definitely
do
agree
too.
with that one. Um,
I just sometimes like I get frustrated because we're in Discord. Just tell me, Justin, come with me. Like, like just speak. Like don't that frustrates me. Like we're in Discord for a reason. It's not like we're randos like using pings.
yeah,
I know we use pings and you guys are used to using pings and I'm trying to get used to using pings. I've gotten a lot better with pings over the last 6 months to a year, but I'm like we are in Discord. If you need help warding, speak.
yeah,
It's like say
yeah.
something. And he's been doing it lately, but it's just like when he's in the middle of their jungle and he never said a word, I'm like I
Yeah, there are
mean,
certain instances where I'm like,
you
well,
know,
it was one instance
yeah,
against Anami, and I think we were on the red side. No, we were on blue side. He went over to their red side to ward their golems, or the ward their blue, and then he got
right,
caught out. And I was
yeah,
like, bro, why didn't you tell anybody you was over there? And I think I was juggling
yeah,
at the time. I was like, why didn't you tell me you were
yeah,
going over there? I would have helped you ward over there, because
right,
that's like way better information for me as a jungler, knowing where the camps are at and what state they're in.
right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that we got to vibe and then talk it over and
I know.
everything like that. So
Yeah, yep, 100%. We're all getting better all the
yeah,
time, right? And like I don't want to make it sound like I'm playing perfectly. I am not.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no.
There's plenty of mistakes I am
Plenty of
making.
mistakes I make
So,
too. Even when I'm bitching about it,
um
I'm making
yeah.
hella mistakes and
Yeah.
stuff. So it
So
just
yeah.
seemed like this
All
season,
right.
though, I will say,
Yeah.
um, especially with the death guard, death timers and stuff, like your mistakes get punished a lot more harsher, or not harsher, but like I feel like sometimes getting an early kill, which they did change, getting kills early was like a mistake because the laner would come back and just kill you, or the juggler would just come back and
Well,
kill you.
they get a free back off
Yeah,
that, you know?
exactly.
Like they don't even have to strategically back. They just die, they buy their items, and they have the advantage over you now because you know, if you didn't back after the kill, it's like, you know, so yeah, it's silly. Like they literally 6-second death timer at leveling 1. What are we doing here, bro? Why even have a timer? You know? By the time you've gotten like you're not you're like you hit your table and you're like, oh fuck this game, you're spawned again. It's like, you know, fucking I don't know.
Yeah.
It's silly,
But
but all
how's your
right.
cyberpunk going?
Yeah, so Cyberpunk, I've been playing this a little bit. I've probably put in, I think my game clock is at like 9 hours now. Or so. So I got through Act 1. I took DJ's advice. I just mainlined Act 1 and got through it. And I've opened the game up at this point. And so I guess I'll talk about the story first. I don't want to get into spoilers, but I will say the end of Act 1 got me. I didn't know that happened. You know, what happens. Not the overarching event, but like some things happen to certain
Yeah.
characters, and I didn't know
Uh,
that. And I'm like, I can't believe dude, it's been 4 years since Cyberpunk came out, right? Like, I can't believe that was never spoiled for me. Like, I legitimately am shocked that I didn't know that, which is awesome. Actually, it was a really cool moment. I was like, "Holy shit, is this actually happening right now?" I was like, "Damn, dude, I did not know this." So the story is good. I'm enjoying the story a lot. I really like this. It's very like it's exactly what I wanted out of this game. To be frank, like I wanted to be involved in this like corporate, almost like corporate espionage type stuff. You know, with some little bits of political, you know, flair in there as well. So they're hitting all the right buttons with the narrative for me so far. I think the world is really cool. It's really interesting. Um, I think I said last week it reminds me of Deus Ex. It definitely does. It's a different vertical though. Like this is like Cyberpunk is really kind of gritty and dirty, and whereas Deus Ex is much more like high. I almost call it like what like it's equivalent to like high fantasy
yeah.
versus low
Yeah.
fantasy. Where this is like it's very high tech and everything is like super clean and that's Deus Ex. So it's different in that regard, but in terms of, you know, there's a lot of similarities though in terms of like the corpo stuff, and like the corpo stuff is like very clean in Cyberpunk, you know, and that kind of has a lot of similarities there. I do like it. I do like it a lot so far. I want to get into the like deeper missions though, because that it really did feel like a glorified tutorial, Act 1. And it's a little frustrating because specifically the mission, the final mission of Act 1, the heist. I really wish you had a little bit more freedom in that mission to approach it how you wanted to. It felt really on rails, and that mission would have been so fucking awesome if you had to control the bot, you know, the robot you had, and you had to actually like get it to where it needed to go, rather than like you just kind of like click a couple buttons and it does it, you know, automatically for you. I would have preferred that probably, and also I wish there was a little bit more stealthing like through the building you were in. That would have been fucking sick, dude, where you had to like climb floors to like get up and shit, without being noticed or without being seen, and you know, stuff like that. So I'm hoping there's more of that as I get deeper into the game now, because that's something that Deus Ex does fucking exceptionally, is that kind of stuff, and I do think Cyberpunk so far is just a little bit too handholdy with the mission design a little bit, because what it's devolved into mostly is just a bunch of combat encounters that are just like you can't avoid them. You know, you have to do them, and I prefer a little bit more choice in that kind of encounter design. So I don't know if this game does that though. It might not. You know, I'm not really sure. I haven't gotten far enough to know. But I will say I've got to Act 2. I've done a couple of the main missions in Act 2. Nothing big, just they're mostly like setup missions where you're kind of doing conversations with people to kind of do some setup for future missions. I've done a couple side missions. I've done a little bit of exploring the city somewhat, and done some like side gigs where you run into the cops like beating up a guy and you stop them or whatever, or you just walk away. Whatever choice you want to make. And that kind of stuff is certainly interesting. I will say though, the thing I'm kind of taking away so far, and I'm sure again, I'm still not deep enough in the game, but the city doesn't feel as dense, I guess, as I was hoping. Um, there feels like there's a lot of things to do in it, but it's kind of marker based. Like everything's at the markers. Like if you're not at a marker, there's really not a whole lot going on in any particular area. There's not a lot to find or discover that isn't on the map, which is fine. That doesn't necessarily mean the game's going to be bad, but or anything like that. I'm just like, this is
Uh,
for an open world game, though. I do like a little bit of that discoverability in there, and I haven't experienced that quite yet.
yeah, it kind of opens up a little bit more. I know what you mean. It's been a while since I played Cyberpunk, but I believe it does have certain instances of that. And there is certain stuff where
Yeah,
you can just like walk around and you'll find and everything of that nature, like little not little Easter eggs, but
yeah.
like actual upgradables and stuff like that.
I've found chests that are like that are just like randomly in like an alleyway or
Yeah,
something. I have found stuff like that.
and there are
But I
like
haven't run into like,
there
yeah,
are like
go ahead.
certain events and stuff like that. Once you get a little bit further,
That'll
that'll
happen.
happen,
Yeah.
depending on like sides and gangs and everything like that.
Well, I had one that I ran into where there were two, I think, gangs fighting each other. And I just jumped in and I killed one side,
mm,
and I did that, and then like I feel like it bugged out because like the one of the NPCs on the side that survived was like, all right, get out of the car, and they just kept repeating that over and over and over again, and nobody ever came out of the car. There was no one in the car to come out.
yeah,
So I don't know if that's kind of what you're talking about. So my first experience with that wasn't super great.
yeah,
But I think that's the other thing I'm taking out of this game is that this game is insanely ambitious. Like they were going for the moon with this game, and I do think they might have bit off more than they could chew. I can tell even with all the Phantom Liberty stuff and 2.0 and everything, the game is still doesn't feel like it's all the way there quite, especially on console. The graphics are not great on console. The game runs pretty smoothly for the most part. There are some areas where I've seen some slowdown now, though. Um, so they went like hyper ambitious, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, but I don't think they clearly didn't quite make it. And obviously, we all know what happened when the game launched, right?
yeah,
There
yeah.
was a certain amount of it that was a disaster, especially on consoles. So that doesn't surprise me. Playing the game now and kind of seeing some of these things, they didn't quite get it all the way, but nonetheless, like I'm still very impressed by the game. I think the world building is really interesting. All the books you can pick up or notes or whatever you can pick up. I've been reading a majority of them so far. I probably read like 80% of what I picked up, and there's a lot of world building in there, and it's very interesting. This is a really interesting world. It's kind of cool. The idea of like the euro dollar, like it seems like the United States and Europe. I don't know this for sure, but like it seems like there's some kind of union there that happened, or at least economically maybe that happened there.
No, you got to read the
Stuff like
lore.
that.
It's super deep. It's not super deep, but I
Yeah.
think the political lore is really intriguing.
Hmm.
Because the United States is not the superpower at all,
Okay.
actually. And
Gotcha.
I don't know if
Okay.
you hear people call each other
Chom.
chum.
Yeah. Chom
Chum, that's a whole lore
or
thing.
Choom. Yeah.
That happened with like their energy crisis and everything. So there's a whole thing behind why they call each other that. That happened with like a major
Interesting.
company. It's actually the
Okay.
acronyms of the company that of the of the energy that this world
Oh,
uses. Yeah.
really? Okay. That's cool.
I advise you to
Interesting.
like just look at some YouTube videos or probably dig into the codex or whatever. For
Yeah.
the because the wars and stuff like that they actually reference it and stuff in the
Yeah.
game. I think it's just really cool.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that I'm really liking with the game so far is how integrated the Japanese are into the story is fucking awesome. I didn't really expect this either. Like I didn't know what I was gonna
Yeah,
get,
it
right?
doesn't feel Japanese
But
to be Japanese. Like, you know how people just put Japanese stuff in there because it's like quote unquote cool. It feels like it's actually well integrated into the
right.
story.
I think it's thoughtful here. Like it well because the company that's involved is a Japanese company originally, and it seems like in this world Japan is actually moderately powerful.
Yes, that is true. Yep.
I don't think they are necessarily where they are today in like the modern world. Like this is a different kind of world environment. So they're like ahead of the curve technologically, which they are, you know, in today's world too, to a degree. But you know, they seem very powerful economically as well, though Japan does. And I think that's really interesting. Like, it's really cool. They're like super integrated into the story so far. I'm sure there may be a point where that tapers off, but you know, there's also like there's like a Japantown section of the city, which is cool too. That area is like really awesome. There's some cool stuff there. So I think the city's like really well designed. It's fun to run around. It definitely looks like a city. I guess my thing so far is it doesn't necessarily feel like a
Yeah,
city quite
you
yet.
want like
You know?
more lively
Yeah.
NPCs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. You know, so we'll see. I got plenty of time. I got a lot of time to go. You know, I'm early. I'm just making judgments off of 9 hours of
Yeah.
gameplay. It's like there's a lot more that I'm sure I haven't seen yet that'll probably fucking blow my mind. So, oh, I forgot to mention this too. I did the first brain dance,
Nice. You liked it?
uh, which
Yeah.
is which is yeah, dude, this is such a cool fucking thing that like games have done stuff like this before, but the way they implemented it here in Cyberpunk is fucking awesome. I love it because it's really interactive. Where like you're in basically a memory and you can play the memory and you can rewind it, fast forward it, you can do whatever you want. But there's like 3 layers of clues
Hmm.
that you can find. It's like thermal, audio, and visual,
Yep.
right? And you have to like rewind the thing and go back to a certain point to see where the clue is because you need to be near the person whose memory it
Yep.
is, you know, at that specific moment to get the clues. That shit was fucking awesome. I love this. I'm so excited to do more of those. I'm sure there will be more. So I'm like, I'm very into that. I'm really into that. I'm really excited about that. It's a really cool gameplay thing they introduced here. So I think a lot of other games should definitely take cues of this if you're trying to make a game where you're doing investigative work. This is definitely a really good starting point, for sure. I'm sure you could do even more interesting things with it too if you wanted to go further, but I love what they did here. This is like such a cool idea,
Yeah, it's
for sure. So
Cyberpunk's definitely like an almost like a noir type game, which I like
mhm,
about it. I like
yeah,
detective books and noir style stuff in general. So this was like that's why I was so disappointed when it came out initially, and then I gave it a second chance. I was like, okay, I see what I
yeah,
like. I have to admit, like the game's pretty good. It is interesting. Cyber City, not Cyber City, but Night City rather. I think it's only like one of the few cities left in America. America's a fucking wasteland, by the way. Like the lore wise, you just gotta read the lore, bro.
really
Yeah, man. The
interesting.
only reason why
Okay,
Night City is saved because of a billionaire like went out his way to fund it the way it is. He couldn't fund it all the way, so it's like halfway built. That's why stuff is half built and not complete and
yeah.
everything like that in Night City. Um,
So did the United States like collapse in this world, or like there's still a governmental entity,
it,
or is that why Europe, like there seems to be some union with Europe
yeah,
maybe with
so
like the
it's a couple civil wars happened, pretty like mini civil wars happened. There isn't like a overarching government like we know it today. There is a government, but like in two separate parts of the United States. Uh, if you talk to some of the NPCs, once you actually like dive deep into the lore, you can hear what they're talking about as far as like the lore of the United States.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
crazy what happened
okay,
throughout the rest of the United States
that's
because
interesting.
you're mainly like on the West Coast, like almost like California, Las Vegas. I don't know exact. I think you're in between there, like the Nevada desert, somewhere like that. But you're not
Yeah,
necessarily on the coast. Um, and
okay,
yeah, there I think there is another version of the Night City somewhere on the East Coast. Um, but like the Midwest is almost totally shit. The South is almost totally shit. Uh,
wow.
um, yeah, like America, uh, even Europe itself got fucked by this like energy crisis that happened. Like I think like maybe 50 years.
So is Asia really powerful in this universe? Like is China like a mega
Yeah,
power?
yeah. I think
Okay.
Japan is actually the mega power of the universe. Yeah.
Really? Okay. That's cool. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm definitely intrigued by this stuff for sure. Like there's a really interesting world here, I think, for sure. But I think all the like robotic aspects to all the implants that people do is kind of an interesting thing cuz in Deus Ex I don't remember it being as quite as prevalent as it is in this
I
world.
think
You know,
in
it's like in this world like everybody has some kind of
Yeah,
implant,
in
it
Deus
feels
Ex,
like.
I believe it was like we were on the revolution of it because Detroit was like becoming the manufacturing capital of the world
Yeah.
for Android parts
Yeah.
and stuff like that for
Yeah.
those type of prosthetics and stuff like that. So, um,
Well, I think on the timeline too, Deus Ex is much earlier. I think it's like
yeah,
2030s, maybe.
yeah,
Like I don't think it's that far ahead. It's not. I don't think it's like late 2000, like late in the 2000th
yeah.
century.
Cyberpunk did
So
something like that, you know, Fallout did, where like the timeline kind of splits. They did that early on
yeah,
too. I think they did in the '90s or whatever. Something happened in the '90s where the timeline split, and now it's like totally different from where it would be today or whatever. Like 2022 is totally different from like the 2022 of today or 2024 today or whatever the case may be. They're like way more advanced because of like energy and the way they used energy and everything of that nature. So I don't know. I think I gotta actually. I'm gonna deep dive into the lore again just to get me hyped to play the game again, to finish the game out. But I do recommend
mm,
you just search up like cyberpunk lore, and there's like 4-hour videos of it you can listen to while you're working or
yeah,
whatever the case may be.
yeah. Just to follow up, so Deus Ex, there's 5 games, I believe. The earliest in the timeline is the fall in 2027.
Okay.
Revolution takes place around that same time. Mankind Divided happens 2 years after that in 2029, 2030 ish. The original Deus Ex is actually way further ahead in the timeline in 2052. And then Invisible War is 20 years after that. So, so the game I played, Mankind Divided, I was right. It's around 2030 ish. So much earlier in the timeline. But yeah, so Cyberpunk's been fun. I'll have more to say. I probably won't get to play much this week, unfortunately, since I'm going to be out of town. But I will play it more when I get back for sure. So yeah, Montreal, what about you?
I think
What have you
isn't
been playing?
cyberpunk Steam Deck approved?
I have it on
Oh,
PlayStation.
okay,
So
okay.
I think I'm going to bring my Portal with me, so I may try to play it on there and just see how it goes.
Okay.
But I'm not sure it's going to play very well on hotel
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. So.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, besides League of Legends, I've been playing Final Fantasy 13. I might do one of my, when we try to revamp the channel, one of my first videos on Final Fantasy. And I'm not going to do the entire thing. It's going to be like one of my first vlogs on Final Fantasy. Because I forgot in this game, you have a literal launch button. You can launch enemies up in the air when they're staggered. This is also the first game to introduce staggering to Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
general. Um, so,
Is that true? 12 didn't have it?
did 12 have staggering? Maybe 12 did have staggering.
Yeah, I feel like 12 may have had it,
Let me see. Final Fantasy.
but that would have been the first one. Unless 11 did it, the MMO. Actually, they may have had that too. I don't know.
Yeah, you
But
can stagger. Yeah, you
cuz
can stagger.
okay. Okay.
Or they call it staggering. They don't necessarily call it staggering. Oh no, it did have a stagger system. So yeah, Final Fantasy 12 was the first one. I'm sorry to introduce staggering.
Okay. So they expanded on it in
Yeah, I
13.
think I'm getting mixed things now. I don't know. People are saying it's in the remake, but not the original. I don't fucking know. So Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy
Maybe,
13, one of those two are the first to introduce the stagger mechanic. Either way, both of them are hated by the community, and it's actual well-loved mechanic from like the most hated games in the community. But
Community's stupid, 13's
yeah,
fine.
so 13 does start off super fucking slow. I fucking hate how it starts
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm 10.
It has a really long
Yeah,
tutorial.
I still can't take
Yeah.
control of my characters yet, and I'm 8 hours into the game, and I can't take control of organizing the party I want to, or switching out characters. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
set up my paradigms and everything like that. But
Yeah.
I can't.
What chapter are you in?
I'm in chapter 5 right now. Chapter 5 is.
Yeah, dude, I want to say it's like not till 8 or
Oh
9
my god,
before you get like full
that's
control. So
crazy.
it was really absurd. It is pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. Also, uh, it's not a bad thing or anything. I forgot how much Lightning is like Cloud in this game. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't. I
Yeah.
I kind of don't like that. She talks a lot more than Cloud. She has a lot more agency than Cloud. But it was clearly like we wanted to make a female Cloud. Um, in my opinion, that's how Lightning feels when she's talking, interacting with the character. She's kind of a dick at the first 5 chapters of the game. I just forgot a lot of stuff. That's why I'm replaying the game. But yeah. Uh, Enough about that. I think the combat system is really fun and everything of that nature. But this game did show me that Final Fantasy has always, I think, I'm going to argue since probably 7. I think they always wanted to go towards action. The games have been getting faster and faster and faster. And that launch mechanic
Yeah.
that you have in Final Fantasy 13, in my opinion, was the icing on the cake that they really wanted to make this an action game, but they were too scared to do it,
Yeah.
make it an action game. And I think their caution was warranted because look how people were receptive to Final Fantasy 16, and this is 10 years later. So I mean, I think Final Fantasy,
More than that. It was like 15 years later.
yeah, you're right.
13 came out in 2009.
Came out 2009. Fuck, that's so crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yep.
Um, yeah, so I think their caution, that's 15 years. That's fucking crazy. I think their caution is warranted because 15 years later, people are still complaining about the action in Final Fantasy 16. When this has been the writing on the wall for a long time. I think they really wanted to move out of action or the RPG element,
Turn-based.
turn based, for a while. I think Kingdom Hearts was honestly their beta. That was the beta version of what they wanted, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. And unfortunately for them, it just turned into a full fledged, like, oh, this is bigger than our main game or whatever. But yeah, they tested it out with Kingdom Hearts, and they slowly been implementing it into Final Fantasy. Obviously, Final Fantasy 15. It still had, it was an action RPG. And then Final Fantasy 16, in my opinion, is just full action with RPG elements. And then they kind of went back to basics with Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth. More so Remake than Rebirth. I think Remake is like the perfect iteration of what they're trying to do. Rebirth kind of goes a little bit too far ish, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
that's neither here or there. But yeah, so that's actually what I want to talk about with this game. I don't have too much more to say about it, but the elements were there, y'all, and it kind of makes sense why people don't like Final Fantasy 13 because it's an RPG game with action game elements, and Final Fantasy fans are bad at action games, so that's what it is.
I think the thing I have a problem with the way people always argued though about 13 is everybody always, like, the criticism was never, oh, the early game is too long, like you don't get control of the party. I feel like I never heard that criticism. It was always, oh, this game's so linear, there's no towns, and and that criticism was always so fucking stupid to me because of Final, like I've mentioned this before, Final Fantasy 10 is exactly the same way. Like, there's no towns in 10. It's fucking the linear game. The game's fucking linear the whole time,
But
pretty
Justin
much.
is actual turn based. I think.
Oh
I
my
think.
god. No, I know, but that's my thing. They didn't criticize what they actually didn't like. They made up criticisms that can be applied to the last game and like one of the last games in the series. It's
It's
like,
one of those things though, where I think if you criticize it, people are just like, get good, because the combat, the action, or the combat is actually really good. I think people didn't understand it. I did actually see a lot of people like criticize 13 for the combat as well. They're like, oh, you just press this button, you just press auto battle and it does everything for you, and it's like, I guess, like, if you want to, you can make it your own if you want to. I actually like switching between the paradigms and everything like that. And yeah, it's linear, but I actually don't mind it being linear. Like I know back in the day, like this is 2009, so we're fresh out of high school, 2 or 3 years out of high school, whatever, or going to college, going into college, and we had a lot more time on our hands. So
Yeah.
maybe a linear game wasn't what we wanted. But man, today playing this game today, oh my god, I'm so glad it's linear. I don't care. And
It keeps it
yeah,
simple,
and
right?
thank God for not having random battles. Like I can see the enemy on the screen,
Oh yeah.
and I like how each battle is its own self-contained battle. When you exit the battle, you're full health and everything of that nature. It's kind of unique in that aspect because you can try different things, and you don't have to be punished for it, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
so I think the game was really trying to go for. I think it was ahead of its time. Uh, and I'll be the first to say that I was a Final Fantasy 13 hater until like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and because I actually tried to replay it then, but I actually just played 13 too. Um, but yeah, like I think the game's really good, really fun to play, and I kind of hate that the criticism it got. I think I am going to do this a lot more. I do. There are newer games I want to play, but those newer games are always going to be there, unless it's like a, a live service game that gets shut down. Um, I am going to play through a lot of retro games that were like traditionally hated from people, even myself, and just like because I
Mhm.
know there are certain games where I have aspects like I'm never playing Code Vein again. I finished that game. Fuck everybody. That game's fucking trash. Never playing that game again. But there are other games
Yeah.
where um I think I misunderstood what they were trying to do. I think Dark Souls 2 is one of those games. I hate Dark Souls 2. I like it as a game. I hate it as a Dark Souls game. I want to retry
Yeah.
it. Because I didn't play Scholar of the First Sin, the remastered, redone, everything was balanced and it's supposed to be fixed in that version of the game. I didn't play that version. I played the original Dark Souls 2 and beat that version. And it was miserable for me personally. Um,
Mm.
so
Mhm.
I do want to play that version of the game. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think I just want to play misunderstood games. I would say I want to play games that are like bad, and then I say they're good now. I want to play misunderstood games. That's going to be my mission is to find either new or old misunderstood games and play them again. And I think Final Fantasy 13 is one of those misunderstood games forever in time from Final Fantasy fans.
Yep.
So yeah,
Um, Fun fact: Final Fantasy 13 was my first ever platinum trophy
really,
on PlayStation.
you
Yep.
platinum Final Fantasy
And
13? Jesus.
yes, I don't know why I did it, and bro, I'm never gonna play this game again. I if I ever have a desire to play Final Fantasy 13 again, I will just play 13 2. Right? I've never played 13 2.
Okay.
But dude, I still think about how many Adamantoises I had to kill to make all the equipment in the game, because that's what the hardest trophy in the game to get is the treasure hunter trophy. Held every weapon and accessory, and you needed to kill adamantoises for one of their drops, in order to craft certain pieces of gear. But it was a super rare drop, and bro, hours and hours and hours and hours spent fucking farming those motherfuckers with Vanille casting death over and over and over and fucking over again, dude. And oh my fucking god, like never again. So yeah.
I will
But
say the game looks really good still. It still holds
yeah,
up
it
really.
looked
Yeah, it
great.
still looks really good, man. And it's running at
I
30
just think
frames.
this
It still looks good.
Yeah. I think the thing with the story was I just felt that because the party kind of splits in two at a
Yeah,
certain
they do that
point,
a lot though. I
and
hate that.
I think the split with Lightning side is a lot less interesting than the split with Zaz and Vanille's side. Like I think that what happens with them is way more
Mhm.
interesting, Um and I think the environments are cooler too. Whereas Lightning is like running through a lot of just like industrial residential areas.
Yeah.
They're going through like the natural environments that are like a little bit more interesting. So I don't know. I just it's kind of a weird game. It's definitely doesn't deserve all the hate it gets. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's like the
Oh
best
no,
fucking
it's
Final
definitely
Fantasy,
like a
but
7.5 or
it's
8 for me.
Sure, yeah, but it's fun. It's a fun game. It's worth
Yeah.
playing. Like it's not dog shit. I personally like it better than 12. The original 7, which I know is fucking blasphemy, but like I don't like the original 7 that much. It's like
It's kind of a
um
ridiculous game. I mean, everything 7 is like, I don't want to say Attack of the Clones, but 7 is like everything surrounding 7 is very interesting. I actually hated 7 until I played Crisis Core with Zach, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess
yeah
I like 7 now because I love Zach
yeah
so much, you know. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. All right, you playing anything
that's
else?
it.
Just Final
That's it.
Fantasy. All right, fair enough. Um, all right, Montrell, let's get into the news. We got a few stories to get through this week. So we got one. This one's super fucking interesting. So, Tango Gameworks was going to be closed by Microsoft, and somebody has come in at the last second and saved them. They have purchased Tango. They purchased Hi-Fi Rush, Crafton Inc., which is the company that owns the studio that makes PUBG. They're the publisher of PUBG, rather. They've acquired Tango Gameworks and Hi-Fi Rush from Xbox. They did not acquire their other IP, Ghostwire Tokyo or The Evil Within, right?
Yeah.
Um, so this is a very interesting transaction to happen. But so Tango lives, and they're going to be working on Hi-Fi Rush and other IP potentially as well. So Montrell, what do you think about this? It's kind of a weird one.
I'm glad. I think the studio is super talented. I think Microsoft shutting them down for, I don't want to say no reason, but Evil Within was really good as a critically acclaimed game. Hi-Fi Rush was a critically acclaimed game. I honestly didn't see any reason to shut them down, you know. Um, and yeah, and Hi-Fi Rush just being released on everything, uh, further cemented the talent of that studio and further cemented
Yep.
how stupid Microsoft is, or Xbox in general and how their leadership needs to be questioned severely. This is what that says to me. To be honest with you, it says nothing to do with Tango Gameworks, and it should be. But only thing I can
Yeah.
think about, and it's very unfortunate for Tango Works, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure they don't really care if I'm thinking about them or not, but uh you have to wonder what the fuck is going on with Xbox to where another studio or another publisher can see the potential in this and you can't. And you're one of the biggest,
Yeah.
publishers, one of the biggest publishers in the
Yeah.
world, So
Well, doesn't it prove that this closure was wrong,
yes,
I guess,
100%,
in the first place? Like
100%.
the idea that like I'm sure Crafton went to Microsoft. It wasn't the other way around, right? Because it had to have been, because why would then, if it wasn't, then why would Microsoft have announced the closure? So it's like, it just kind of proves out that there's some short-sightedness here, that it's weird that they didn't explore selling this team in particular, because I think it's obvious to everybody that there's value here. And I don't know, it's just, obviously it's a numbers thing for Microsoft. They're just trying to save a certain amount of money on a balance sheet,
Yep.
like that was the whole point, right? But when you can save that money and then make a shitload of money at the same time, that's way better. So I'm surprised they didn't explore this from the get-go. It's just, again, it's just, I just it's dude, it's doesn't it it puts into question, doesn't it just put into question like Phil's leadership at a certain point, and Sarah Bond and Matt Booty and these guys, like, they're, the idea that they would close this team and not explore, um they wouldn't explore selling them to somebody else that would be interested. I mean, the outcry when they announced the closure was just so loud, you know. Just kind of show, though, the um lack of, I don't know, good leadership at Xbox, that like
I
they you know,
It shows a lack of leadership. It shows a lack of foresight. It shows a lack of direction. It shows a
vision.
lack of vision. Yeah, it I think I don't think Matt Booty or the new I forgot her name. I apologize.
Sarah Bond
Sarah
or
Bond
Phil.
in the field. I don't think maybe Sarah Bond can take the company in the right direction, but I think she's just a subsidiary of
I
Phil.
think they're all
Am I?
connected. I think they're all
Yeah,
connected.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think they all have the same vision, and I don't think that vision is carrying the company. I think now the vision is how can we make this less of a blow to our shareholders for
Well,
Microsoft.
dude, isn't this? It's just like this is kind of embarrassing when you look at it a certain way, right? That like another company comes to you and wants to buy this team that you announced you're closing. Like, doesn't that show how little foresight and like just like knowledge of the value you have your studios have? Like, I don't know. It just seems so obvious to me that like if these were good leaders, they would have explored this well before they decided to close Tango. You know, if they really need to offload this team, like look around and see if anybody's interested. No, like I don't know. It seems crazy. Like sometimes closures make sense, and I mean, I'd say most of the time when they happen, unfortunately, they tend to make sense. But this one was one that was just, I mean, when it was announced, everybody there was a huge outcry about it, and I don't know, like, and they had to defend themselves for making the decision, and it's just like, man, you could have alleviated all this by just selling the fucking team, you know. Now
Yeah,
you've taken the PR hit, and now you kind of look like an asshole when when you're doing it this way, and it's like it makes you wonder, like, did Phil even execute this deal? Like, was he even involved in making this happen? Like, did Microsoft leadership come in and make this happen? It's like I don't know. We don't know. This is just speculation, but it's like I don't put anything past these guys at this point. Like, to me, this is embarrassing. I don't know.
no, you're right. I think it's. I'm trying to look at. I don't know. I think I gotta change my browser. Chrome is acting very fucking slow for me for some reason. I can't even go to game sites without it fucking crashing now. I don't know if it's the game site or if it's just Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe all their games are almost critically acclaimed. I think the only one that has like a bad rating, I think, is Evil Within One, maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think Evil Within One was like tepid. Like, it wasn't like a critical success, but yeah, Ghostwire was well received.
well,
Hi-Fi Rush was super well received.
it has a 9 out of 10 on Steam, Evil Within, and it has an 8.7 for IGN. But that's Evil Within One. Um, I know Ghostwire was well received as well. Um, Evil Within 2 was 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 on Steam. Uh, so all their games, in my opinion, are critically acclaimed. They just don't make blockbuster hits. They make double A games that
Yeah,
are good, which
yeah,
is okay. Like that's what we need more of.
yeah.
I played Ghostwire Tokyo. I love the concept of it. I just wasn't in the right headspace for it, but I think the game's fucking phenomenal. I played like 10 hours, 10 or 15 hours of the game. I think it's phenomenal. Even within one, I went into it thinking it was going to be like Resident Evil 4 because the person who made Resident Evil 4 worked on this game as well, but it's actually more so of it is a survival horror, but more so on the psychological end of the game.
Yeah.
But I think that game's really good. Obviously, I love Hi-Fi Rush. Um, there's just no reason to close the studio. Like they don't have any flops. Like
Yeah.
I can legitimately say that they don't have any flops. Like
Right.
I don't know.
But that's my point, though. Like, shouldn't you have explored a sale? I don't. It just seems crazy. Like,
I,
also,
I,
why did they
I hate
keep
to be this
Ghostwire
guy.
and Evil Within?
Yeah, I hate to be this guy, but I feel like the studio would have been way better with PlayStation. Like,
Well, that was what I was frustrated by. Is like, PlayStation, why didn't you come in and like maybe inquire? Maybe Microsoft would say, "Fuck you, no way, you're our primary rival. We're not going to sell these guys to you." But I mean, I would try. I mean, Ghostwire was exclusive to PlayStation when it came out originally, and it was really well received on there. That was a good exclusive for Sony. I don't think it sold like crazy or anything like that, but um I don't know. I feel like under Sony though, I think you're right. I totally think you're right. I think this team could thrive,
yeah,
We're not going to see that
that's
obviously, but
That's the point, though. That's the point we've been trying to make for the last, I say, since 2013. But on the podcast for the last 5 years of Xbox, right? They need more studios like PlayStation. They need to treat their studios like PlayStation.
Right.
In my opinion, you don't have to move like PlayStation, but you can learn from PlayStation. You can learn from Nintendo. Build your own, get to know your audience, or you can like mold your audience into what you want to mold it to. Xbox is known as a dude bro console, but it was also in the 360. Like everyone was playing everything on the 360, in
Right.
my opinion, right?
Well, all the JRPGs were releasing there. They had exclusive JRPGs that like PlayStation didn't have. Like they had it all at a certain point.
Yeah. And I understand like it wasn't doing well in Japan, but your problem was you're focusing. I think they focused too much on Japan, and they thought these type of games are too Japanesey, in my opinion, or like not what the Western audience wants. So they stopped making those type of games or winning those type of games.
They lacked foresight. They didn't anticipate. I don't think they anticipated the growth in the, I guess, for lack of a better term, weeb culture growing in the West, and it has grown significantly in the 15 years since the Xbox 360 was huge, you know. And they just, that's just a lack of foresight, you know.
But yeah, but even games like like Western games like Heavenly Sword or Odyssey to the West or or Infamous or stuff like that, right? Like those games are like those are inherently video gamey games, but in the Western sense, right? And it's like Xbox really doesn't have anything like those games. They don't have a Ratchet and Clank. They don't have like PlayStation has a nice little balance of stuff. Like they have the Dude Bros, they have the shooters, the Call of Duties, the Maddens, and stuff like that.
Sad dad simulators.
Yeah, the sad dad simulators. Yeah, and they also have your run of the middle line stuff where you can have your Last of Us, you have your Ratchet and Clanks, you have your Infamous games, and all that stuff like that.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, you have your Ghost of Tsushima, and then you also have your Weeb games. They have a ton of Weeb games on there and everything of that nature.
Well, like Persona's been an exclusive until very recently.
Exactly.
So Final Fantasy VII remake and Rebirth, both exclusives.
Exactly.
16 was an exclusive. 14's been an exclusive forever, like until very recently. So they just Kingdom Hearts exclusive. Most of Square Enix's catalog has been an exclusive on PlayStation or Switch, one of the two. Nothing on Xbox until the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I think they don't understand, and I know they're probably scratching their heads like, well, how did PlayStation get in this position? Blah 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 blah. And it's like they've been doing this since the PS2, right? And OG Xbox.
Earlier, really? PS1, dude?
PS1,
dude, they stole Squaresoft from Nintendo.
Oh, that's true.
That was huge for PlayStation early on.
And the only reason they got them too is because of technological reasons, because Squaresoft didn't want to put Final Fantasy on like 20 different cartridges or whatever.
Dude, all the JRPGs were on PlayStation 1. Remember, the N64 famously didn't have an RPG for like a year and a half or more.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think OG Xbox came out right, and it had the right mindset. Like, let's just get everything on here. Let's just try everything. And I remember OG Xbox's library being very robust and very diverse.
Yeah.
And even that carried on to the 360. It was only until the later half of the 360 lifespan where they got rid of that philosophy and they started nailing down what they really wanted, which was like the Dude Bro, Call of Duty, Gears Wars, Halo crowd. They didn't want anybody else. Whereas with PlayStation, they were still playing catch up, and then they actually beat them at the end, right? And they focus on diversity. We want gamers to come here because they want to have everything. If they want to have like the Nintendo type games, we have those. If they want the Dude Bro type games, we have those. If you want a little bit of in between, we have those, right? Yeah. And I think Nintendo thrive with like just being Nintendo. They're like, hey, we're gonna do our own thing, and that's what we always been doing. They failed a couple times, but then they came back, right? And I don't think Xbox is they did see failure, but I think Microsoft being their daddy prevented them from trying new things out or actually trying, because they have so much money, like cash reserves, or whatever. They don't have
Yeah.
to. They don't have to really try like Nintendo or Nintendo or Sony rather, as far as like creativity and things of that nature, which is a huge hindrance in my opinion. And honestly, Xbox should have the most creativity because you have that big cash cow behind you. So you shouldn't be as worried about taking hits. You should be more worried about, well, we need to get out there. We need to try different things. And
I
I
think
think Sea
though,
of Thieves,
I think they have been doing that. I think the problem is they've been doing that too much. Like they don't
really?
know they don't that's I come down, like, think about the games that they have allowed to be made, to come out, like Sea of Thieves, they got lucky that turned into what it is. It's
Yeah.
like I don't think that was obvious, and like Grounded with Obsidian, like Pentiment, like these aren't bad games, but they're not system seller games that PlayStation has. They're not at the same level, right? There's, we've criticized them for like Everwild with Rare or whatever the fuck, and but like Hellblade 2 was a fucking disaster. It's like they don't Halo Infinite, fucking disaster. It's like they don't know how to manage these games.
Yeah,
That
that's a good point.
that's
Yeah.
just been the problem. It's like they definitely, I think they definitely give their studio space to explore creativity and do what they want. It's just like I don't feel like they don't pick the right games, number one, to greenlight, and then when they do pick games to greenlight, they kind of let the studio hang themselves sometimes. And it's like I feel like Sony is not, we don't know this for sure, but I mean the output speaks for itself at a certain point. Like they know what to greenlight, and they don't they don't let the studios like do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a certain framework that seems to be in place. And that framework has worked very well for PlayStation to pump out quality games. There are diminishing returns, definitely. I would say, like, I feel like Spider-Man 2 is a great example where I was definitely feeling the diminishing returns of that series starting to happen, and I think Horizon's in a similar boat. Even God of War, I think them getting out after 2 games with the Norse saga is the right decision. I don't think I needed a third game there,
Yep.
But that's my point. They made that decision. Would Microsoft have made that decision? Probably
No.
not. They would have
No.
made the
I mean,
third game,
look at Halo. Like we still have the same
Right.
kind of story arc.
Yep. Yep. So I just think I don't know. I think in more recent times it comes down to a management thing. If we're gonna go back to the 360 era, you're getting into more philosophical long term bets that they made that didn't work out. The whole bet with they wanted the Xbox One to be an entertainment center, that fucking flopped as hard as humanly possible. And they were still recovering from that up to a certain point. I don't think that's really an excuse anymore. I think ever since the Game Pass era started for them, that was kind of a reset. That was their moment to kind of grow, and it's just that has not worked out. They've been creative in the services space, but I think they've been stubborn as well in that space with Game Pass. Like they don't. I think they're a little bit too, like, with that one. They're doing the same thing, right? Like they're really gung ho. They're throwing whatever they can at the wall and seeing what sticks with Game Pass. And I don't think it's working as well as they would have hoped, I guess. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just because there's like a certain whimsy when I think about the original Xbox. There's just some really weird games on there, that, like, dude, do you remember the game Sudeki?
Yeah. I had that.
Yeah, it's just like an action RPG. But can you think of a game like that on Xbox, like, since, really? Maybe Fable, I guess, sort of, but
Even Fable, right?
yeah,
Even
but Fable's been gone for like 15 years, so it's like, it's games like that, like in that you're talking about, like, right, those like Western style RPGs, like those fell away too for them, and it's like
Well, they
like
had Jade Empire, and then they had Mass Effect, and they had Couture,
oh,
and
they
they
had
just
Mass
let those.
Effect. They did have Mass Effect, yeah.
Yeah, and
Dude,
then
they
just
even had
let those
Mass
go.
Effect 2. They had Mass Effect
They
2
just
for a year.
they just let BioWare go. Like,
Yeah,
this
and
is what I'm talking about.
they let EA acquire them of all like. Dude, can you imagine like if they acquired a Bioware? Well, Bioware would probably be closed if Microsoft had acquired them back then. But
Okay, you also gotta think too about the trajectory, the timeline. The timeline would have been vastly different from Bioware. We wouldn't have got Anthem.
We
Microsoft.
probably would not have gotten Anthem. We would have gotten Inquisition for sure. I think in Dragon Age 2, I think we would have gotten those. Dragon Age 1 was already in development at that point. Like at the point they may have acquired them, so that was definitely coming out. 2 probably would have still come out. Inquisition maybe actually. That one might have been in the air actually. Depending, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It's Xbox's timeline is very strange. You know, I just think earlier on they had their head in the game more. I think they understood the industry a little bit better than they have in the 15 years since 360 started to decline. You know, I don't feel like they haven't had the right approach that entire time. You know, they got closer with Game Pass, but I think it's kind of interesting. I just don't think the core gaming audience really cares. Like they don't really want the subscription, you know?
Well, they need to get that. They need to get us back, our generation back, right? Because we are the primary. I mean, stats don't lie. We're the primary audience for certain things, and a lot of us grew up on Halo. A lot of us grew up on a lot of different Xbox IPs and stuff like that. You talk to everybody, a lot of people like, yeah, I remember being in the Xbox 360 chat lobbies or the Xbox 3. They brought the party system. They were the first console to bring the party system to like consoles and
Digital
stuff like that.
Storefront was all them too.
Yeah. So it's like you were the first innovators behind this stuff and you did nothing. But you let PlayStation just not take your ideas, but
the Ethernet cable, like plugging an Ethernet cable into a console, Xbox did that first.
Well, I guess you could say technically, well, actually, Dreamcast. But yeah, Xbox did it first, for sure.
Are you sure?
Actually, I'm sorry. No, you could plug an Ethernet cable inside the PlayStation 2.
No, there was an attachment for that came out later. Same with GameCube. They were not default parts of the console. The Xbox, it was a default part of the console. Okay. Pretty sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, but like having a live service, Montrell, like the Xbox Live and dedicated servers and stuff like that, like that was all Xbox and everything like that. And to me, letting Tango, I think they're just having bad PR, right? If you look at it, this has been like a horrible year for Xbox. You let Halo flop 3 or 4 times. You let Halo Infinite flop. You let Halo Infinite flop again, and you let Halo fucking the TV show flop twice.
Yeah.
And now it's just gone. And on top of that, it costs so much money that I think that was the reason why Paramount Studios is shutting down. So you let all this happen, and now you're letting Tango Works get acquired. And on top of that, you just drop Hellblade 2, and it's a glorified movie trailer. It's a glorified movie, 6-hour movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we doing at this point, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I just think they don't know what they want to do. They don't understand how to go back to basics. Like they don't understand that they're gonna lose some money at the beginning to get the money at the end. They have to rework their entire framework. They have to be video game focused. Because like to be honest with you, I don't even see Xbox. My Xbox Series X as a console is like a secondary console for me. It's like an emulator machine for me.
It's
honestly.
like a tertiary console for me. I don't even know. Yeah. Like I
like, what do I play it for? What do I have it for?
That's the problem, right? Anything we're talking about here doesn't matter if they can't bring out the games, like actually good games, you know.
And it sucked ever since the launch of the Xbox One. You're right. And I think that still is an excuse. To me, that Xbox One launch was such a slap in the face to their core audience that we weren't ready for concepts like DRM at that time. We weren't ready for concepts like, we just weren't ready for that. Because first of all, we didn't have the infrastructure we'd had now, right? Like
Right.
Ethernet's almost everywhere now. Starlink is everywhere now. You can get reliable speeds, right? Remember back then, like having like 15 megs was like, oh, you're zooming
you
now,
were
buddy.
you were a fucking dude. You were fucking living it up, bro. With 15 megabit. I remember, dude. I moved here in Texas in 2012, and I remember we couldn't get faster than we were still only able to get DSL 3 megabit.
Oh my god, 3?
3 megabit,
Holy shit.
and we're trying to watch Netflix, bro. Like I'm playing Dota, and Amanda's watching fucking Netflix downstairs, bro. My Dota games were not going well. I'll just tell you that much. And I remember when they upgraded us to 7 megabit, they did that for free. Actually, it was kind of funny. And then eventually, I think when we left, by the time of 2014 rolled around, when we left, I think they had just implemented 15 megabit in the area we were in. And then when we moved to Grapevine, and we had, I think it was Time Warner at the time, and I want to say we were able to get 30 megabit there, and I was like, oh my fucking god, I can play Dota, Amanda can watch Netflix, and I'm not gonna fucking lag out, you know. It's so funny to think about how rapidly that changed, because 100 megabit, 150 megabit within a couple years was already everywhere, you know.
Yeah, and already obsolete, by the way.
Yeah, and gig became pretty common. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, probably, in this area. It just happened so rapidly. I mean, it was crazy, but I feel like that's the thing. That's where Microsoft being a tech company was an advantage for them at certain points, right? Because I did look it up. Dreamcast did not have an Ethernet adapter, didn't have an Ethernet port in the console. There was an adapter they released later.
Okay.
Xbox actually had an Ethernet port built into the original console. It was part of the console. You didn't have to buy an adapter. No one else did that until PS3, Wii, etc. Like the GameCube did not have that. The PS2 did not have that. They had adapters for it eventually, but yeah, it was not widely adopted. Xbox was the first one to really do it, and they had some version of Xbox Arcade on the original Xbox, I believe, that you needed an online connection for. So they were way ahead of the curve, dude, on some of this stuff. You know, they were the first one to launch a digital store with 360. Like, I mean, there was real innovation that Xbox brought into the space. You know, and then they made, the Xbox 360 controller famously is probably one of the best controllers ever made. You know,
Yep.
It's a lot of people's favorite controller for good reason. It's a fucking amazing controller. So it's like there was a lot of good stuff Xbox was doing, and it just, like, towards the back end of the 360 generation, I just feel like it tapered off, and then they hit Xbox One. That was a disaster, and they've just been trying to recover from that since. And I don't know. They need to get their head out of their ass and, like, come up with an identity, like have an identity. You know, that's the problem. I feel like they keep trying to copy Sony, and it's just like, just be your own device,
Well, I don't think there's a problem with copying Sony. I think the problem is the way you copy it.
Yeah.
Like, innovate it in your own way. Because, I mean, Sony copies Nintendo, like, bar for bar. Yeah. They try to copy Nintendo, but they do it in their own innovative way. And yeah, like, look at all the accolades you mentioned, or all the accolades rather you mentioned, for the Xbox coming into the space, what they've done for the space of video games and stuff like that. And I don't know. You have, in my opinion, for a lot of, like, high schoolers or people that are my age that came out of high school, you were the second, like, Master Chief was the second Mario. Right, everybody knew who Master Chief was. Like, your mom knew who Master Chief was. Bro, your dad knew who Master Chief was.
Dude,
Everybody.
School, oh my god, Halo was it, dude. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. And to let you, like, we seen what Nintendo did with Mario. They never let Mario become a shit IP. Even when it released a shit movie, we don't even remember the fucking movie. Then they released another movie, and the movie is really fucking good. But it took 20 years to do that. But they just focused on making the Mario games good.
Yeah. Even during one of the worst eras of Nintendo history, it has two of the best Mario games ever made. Galaxy and Galaxy 2, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, I don't know, man. Like you're right. Like that IP is like Sunshine for a lot of people is like kind of that's like the valley, right? I actually like Sunshine. I
love Sunshine.
I didn't beat it or anything like that, but I played enough of it. I do like Sunshine. I actually think it's
that's actually my favorite Mario. I know it's buggy as fuck. I know it.
Yeah.
I love that fucking game though.
Yeah.
Sunshine is so fun.
But no, during that era though, dude, it was Halo and Smash Bros. For me and my friends. You know, those were the two games we were playing. It was nothing on PlayStation. PlayStation wasn't even fucking. They had nothing.
You should see the comments
space.
for like when like there'd be certain TikToks or Instagram reels with the Halo music. Everybody knows the Halo music because they're using it now as a meme music now, and people are like they're using ODST. Halo ODST meme music as meme music or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, cause like the kids don't know what that music is. Like my cousin, he didn't know what that was. I'm like, are you watching Halo ODST? He's like, no, it's just a meme on TikTok. And I'm like, what? And he's like, that's music for a video game? I'm like, yeah, it's Halo 3 ODST. But like, you have a whole generation of people who know your music iconically. Like everybody knows what the Halo song is. Like, so you're cemented. It's almost up there with the dun, 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 dun. Like everybody knows the Mario theme. Everybody knows if a group of guys walk into a hallway that has acoustics, somebody's gonna sing the Halo song for no fucking reason. Everybody's gonna join in.
My wife knows the Halo song. Okay, like she doesn't fucking give a flying fuck about video games, and she knows the Halo song. Like she sent me something like a couple weeks ago and was like, "Do you know this song?" And I was like, "Yeah, the Halo song." And she's like, "Yeah, the Halo song." And I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "What?" So yeah, it's that iconic, dude.
So
like,
so
I don't know.
And I feel like now getting back to like Tango Works, I don't feel like Hi-Fi Rush was going to be that, but it could have been like their new Devil May Cry. It could have been something to rival that, It could have been all this stuff, and they just let these IPs fall and fester, or the ones they should manage and they should not give up on is the ones they give up on, and it's like
they always make the wrong decisions. Yeah,
it's backwards there.
No, and then they let like Ninja Theory just like run themselves into a corner. I don't like.
No one was looking over that game, man. Like I just that's the whole other conversation.
I don't know. Yeah, like we're getting in the weeds here, but I think this situation we kind of got into a rant diatribe off this, but I'm going to stand by my original point that I think this is pretty embarrassing for Xbox leadership.
Yeah.
That this played out this way. And I'm not going to get off that hill. If you're a business person and you don't realize the value of something that you hold and you're just going to close it for nothing, and somebody comes to you later and fucking offers you a bunch of money to buy them, that's not a win. You're going to spin it as a win, but that shows how lacking in foresight you have and lacking in understanding of the assets you have, the value that they have. And like, dude, like for instance, fantasy football, right? We do cuts every year in my dynasty league. If I cut a guy, right, and there's 3 other owners lining up to sign that guy for free, I fucked up. That's bad. That's bad ownership. That means that you misjudge that guy's value. Somebody might have been willing to give you something for them. It's the same kind of concept here. They wanted to cut Tango Gameworks, and somebody else came in and is like, oh, fortunately for them, the way business works, you don't just get to pick them up off waivers, but it's like that you're just lucky that that's the system, So I don't know. Anything else you want to say on this, Montrell?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think a lot of companies that are on top and do stuff like this, it always seems like the ones that were innovative at first, but then kind of just die out. And I don't know what happens, and I really want to understand how Nintendo keeps the innovation going, because I mean,
yeah,
not to go on another diatribe here, but like Blizzard, for instance, right, in Dota started out in Warcraft 3, and they never did anything with that. And
again, lack of vision. You don't know
exactly.
What you have until it's gone.
You had entire people who did not even play Warcraft, never touched the original Warcraft game. Bro, all I bought Warcraft for is for Dota. That's it. I heard about the Dota mod. I played Like that's it, bro. That's all I wanted to play.
Hours. I have thousands of hours in the original Dota on Warcraft 3. Like thousands of fucking hours. Like I have more hours in that than I have in League, for sure. I have more hours of that than I have in Dota 2. I probably have more hours in that than I have in those two games combined. You know, I'm talking thousands of hours at this point, like probably 3,000 or 4,000 hours of gameplay. Like that's how much I played Dota on Warcraft 3, you know? And it's like, how do you not have telemetry that's showing you this, that like more people are playing Dota on Warcraft 3 than they are playing your actual game, you know, like that
I'm
are actually playing
100%.
Warcraft 3.
I'm 100% sure people in the studio was playing Dota. 100% sure.
Leadership was fucking oblivious to it though, and they didn't know what they had until it was gone.
And I think that's going to be another hi-fi rush. I think we're going to see this IP thrive, and we're going to look at Microsoft like, bro, you let this go in 2024 or 2023 rather, or I think it was this year actually, right?
It was this year.
Yeah, you let this go in 2024, and now in 2028, it's rivaling Devil May Cry or some shit like that. I think it could, but like, you know,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to see what happens with this one. All right, Montrell, let's move on. This is an exciting story, interesting story. There's a lot to talk about here. So Valve, there's been rumors and a lot percolating out there of Valve having a secret new shooter game for a while. It's really been not so secret for, I don't know, a couple months now. Like I feel like this is almost purposeful to some degree, but we haven't talked about it yet because there's really been nothing super definitive. However, The Verge, somebody at The Verge, Sean Hollister, one of their writers, got access to Deadlock, which is the name of the new shooter, and was able to play it for a while. And he did a lot of coverage on the game on The Verge's website. He actually streamed the game, I think, and has some YouTube videos up of gameplay of him playing the game in this whatever closed beta or closed alpha, whatever you want to call it. And he posted a lot of information about the game. So let's talk about the game first. He describes it as a shooter that kind of takes cues from Overwatch, Dota 2, Team Fortress 2, and some other games. And looking at the gameplay, it appears to be kind of reminds me of what was the one that fucking Gearbox did that failed super fast? Yeah, Battleborn. That it kind of reminds me of that game because it's a third-person shooter, and it has lanes. Like there are 4 lanes on each side, and it seems like there are hero characters that you play as, and that appears to be the game. It's kind of like a MOBA, in its kind of basic structure like that, and I don't know. It's 6-on-6 game as well. It's not 5-on-5, which is interesting. So there's a change there. But you know that basic structure, Montrell, does that get you excited? Are you into this idea?
Yeah, I'm actually interested in how the lane structure is going to work. Is it going to be 1-1-1-2? No, 1-1-1-1-2. That would be 5.
Like
still.
It could be like 2-1-1-2, maybe
2-1-1-2. Yeah, that's still 5, right?
No,
2-1-1-2. Okay, yeah, 6. Yeah, I was thinking that maybe it's 2-1-1-2 then. That would be interesting, like having maybe like a tank and a support on one side, and then the ADC and a support on the other side, and then the 2 mid laners. That'd actually be pretty dope. That would be a really dope concept.
I like that idea.
Yeah, not necessarily a jungle. I think that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm watching the gameplay of it, and it looks really cool. We've been looking for. I mean, me and DJ rather have been looking for some kind of third-person MOBA ever since Paragon got shut down. And yeah, I mean, I don't Smite for me. I know people are like, well, Montrell Smite's right there. It's like whatever. I hate Smite.
Smite 2 is actually, dude. I was literally looking at Smite 2 yesterday, like, because the game's coming out in early access. I think in a couple weeks. So okay, I don't know. Could be worth checking out, but anyways,
I'll check it out.
Continue.
But the game looks good. I think even the early parts of it looks good. They have minions and a map and objectives, and even the objectives look really cool. It doesn't look like you got the last hit, but last hit looks more third person shootery, which I think is more, which would be a lot more better for casuals to get into as well. But I do want to talk about the other aspect of this is what the fuck was Valve thinking not putting the NDA behind this shit? Or is it Valve's fault? Or is it a lack of integrity by the journalist?
Yeah, so I mean that's the other aspect of this, right? So this guy says that he didn't sign an NDA to play, and there was no EU like user licensing agreement that he had to sign to play the game. And I think it's a both sides kind of situation. I think Valve fucked up, number one, for sure, not having those things in place. If that's true, he may not be telling the truth. But I'd be surprised by that. But number two, I do think on his side though, like, isn't there kind of an unwritten rule here? Like, wouldn't you go ask Valve, can I cover the game before you just do it? You know?
Well, in the article, right, he says this message pops up when I launched Deadlock, but I didn't click OK. Instead, I hit the escape key and watch it disappear. So the screenshot for everybody, it says early development build. Deadlock is still in early development with a lot of temporary art and experimental gameplay. Do not share anything about this game with anyone. And you click OK, but I guess you can bypass it by just clicking escape. You don't click OK.
Yeah, I didn't see that part of the article until you just mentioned it. Yeah, so in that case, I mean, this is very clearly on Sean. Like,
yes,
they're literally asking you not to share anything about the game with anyone, even though you didn't technically click on the agreement. It's there. Yeah, that's a loophole, but like they definitely told you not to share anything. So I don't know. I don't know. That makes it a little bit more one-sided, I guess, in terms of who's at fault. I mean, I appreciate all the info. I love covering it here. But yeah, I don't think he necessarily should have done it this way. He did put an update in the article. He actually got banned after posting all this stuff. So,
damn.
I mean, what about you? What do you think? Like, do you think he's at fault or?
I do. I know he's an editor. He's a senior editor and the founding member of The Verge, who covers gadgets, games, and toys. He spent 15 years editing for CNET, Gizmodo rather, in Engadget. So he is not like a newbie trying to look for clout.
Yeah.
I can maybe understand if you're like a starving, hungry journalist, starving, hungry YouTuber. Maybe I can understand. I think this is a very nuanced conversation. I know people are like, "Well, you got to hold it accountable for all levels," and for him, no. I think this is very unprofessional. I think you just burned a bridge that you're probably never going to get back. All for an article that's only a handful of people are going to read. In my opinion.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, even the video itself only got. I mean, it's 3 days. It got 95K views though. A lot of dislikes though. And people are like saying the same thing in the comments.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing that now too. I'm kind of surprised that The Verge kept this up, actually. Given the situation, like, you think they would have taken it down. Obviously, I mean, when things are on the internet, it's kind of hard to, once they're out there, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, this guy burned a bridge though. It kind of makes me think they'll get. I mean, The Verge is probably going to be blacklisted with Valve for sure, based on this. But it could affect other relationships too.
Yeah,
because he literally put it in the article that they said don't share anything about the fucking game, and you fucking go online and you're posting videos and stuff. And
well, actually, I didn't click OK.
I didn't actually click OK. It's like, yeah, okay, dude. Like, what? You sound like a fucking 15-year-old trying to rationalize your way out of doing something wrong at school. It's like,
it's like let's just say, for instance, right? There's a window in the school in the girls' locker room, and it's open, right?
Yeah.
And you're in the playground, and you're like looking into the window, you can see a girl getting dressed or getting undressed.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I wasn't in the thing. She should have closed the window. And it's like, bro, maybe you should just turn around, or maybe you should
Yeah.
like scream,
You
"Hey,
should look
close the
look
window!"
look away. Like have
Yeah,
some, have some tact. Maybe it's like I don't know. But again, that's something that a teenage boy would do.
exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
so.
So that's why I think
Yeah,
the hungry comparison of like a starving journalist compared to like a senior editor comes into play. Like this is such a rookie move. You, I'm not even a journalist, and I understand the importance of having sources. Like burning a source, I feel like you just burned a source, in my
they
opinion.
burned a whole fucking company basically with
Yeah,
them. Like I said, I mean, Valve's probably never going to give the Verge access to anything again. So, which is, I mean, is that a big deal? I don't know. I mean, it's not like Valve is releasing games every year, but um, at some point in the future, who knows? That could all change, dude. Like, it could be something you regret in 10 years, um, when this guy doesn't even work at your company anymore. It's like, so yeah, I don't know. It seems pretty open shut.
yeah,
Now that we looked at it a little deeper, but I don't know the game though. I'm fucking excited, dude. I don't know. I kind of want to play this. Like, I'm ready to go. I need something new. This is definitely a unique spin on everything we've talked about. Like Battleborn, I feel like got a really unfair, got was really unfairly treated because it was perceived as an Overwatch clone when that wasn't what it was at all.
yeah.
But Randy Pitchford, for some fucking reason, one of the worst CEOs in the game industry. I don't understand how Gearbox survives with this dude because he's a fucking idiot. But do you remember when he was getting interviewed about the game and they were like, "Oh, it kind of looks like a MOBA," and he's like, "It's not a MOBA. It's definitely not a MOBA. If it's anything, it's not a MOBA." He did not want it to be called a MOBA. You know,
Yeah, I remember that. I also remember him saying also that Overwatch is only popular because of the porn. So, so yeah, that happened as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So
I don't know. So he fucked that game, but so it's been a while since we had a game like this, though. I feel like, um, yeah, Smite, blah blah blah, whatever. It's
it
not a
looks
shoot.
like, but
It's not a shooter though.
yeah, it looks like like maybe Smite, Paragon, and Dota because it has different trees like a vitality and intelligence and a strength tree. You can build the characters like that. So I know Dota has something similar to that as well.
Yeah, there's an attribute system.
Yeah.
It also
So
has creep denying, from what I saw.
okay,
In the
I didn't see that.
comments, yeah, there's you can like deny minions, but it's not instant. So what's interesting is it seems like they kind of put a little spin on it from what Dota has, where you kill a minion and they're like their soul goes into the air and you have to like kill the soul, I think,
Oh, okay.
to actually like confirm the gold that you get. So when you kill the minion, if the enemy, like the one on the team of the minion, kills the soul, that's a deny, I guess. So that's
And it
interesting.
looks like they're focused more on gold than actual KDA. I can't see the whole scoreboard though.
Yeah.
That's interesting too.
Yeah. So this is pretty exciting, dude. I'm very interested in looking deeper at this. I will say the characters definitely do not look finished right now.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
They're looking a little rough, but yeah, I mean this is like a closed alpha, it looks like. So let's be fair to Valve there. I'm sure they'll get there with that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to this game. I'm hoping is coming sometime soon in the next year, maybe. Probably
Knowing
not.
Valve. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably 10 years.
probably not. Doesn't look like it's that close to prime time yet, but um, we'll see.
The
On
simple fact that it has voices and everything like that is pretty cool. So they already have voice work done for it.
yeah, yeah. All right, Montreal. Let's move on to our next story. Concord, Firewalk Studios has announced their post-launch roadmap. And they said that the game will not have will never include a battle pass or paid expansions. Season one's going to have a in-game store with premium customizations options, so it's going to have microtransactions. That they will be purely cosmetic. They're going to have no gameplay impact. Season one is going to be called The Tempest. Will be coming in October. Season will introduce a new free gunner map, free gunner variants, more cosmetics and rewards. There'll be a season of weekly cinematic vignettes to continue the story. And then season 2 is scheduled for January 2025. There'll be a new free gunner map, game mode, free gunner variants, cosmetics, rewards, and cinematic vignettes every week. Season 3 looks like it's teased for April 2025, with very few details. So, game is coming out on August 23rd, later this month. What do you think? You think this is enough?
No.
Yeah, I think
I,
they're. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I know we just got done talking about Valve and their live service game. Um, Something about Concord though. I'm tired of it. It's something about Concord that I don't know what I don't like about it. And I don't like the look or feel of the game. I kind of wish it was a team ensemble game, like kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's
because I
certainly
think
the
the world,
vibe they're going for.
yeah, I think the world is interesting and everything. The characters look interesting. But if I have to experience this through cinematics and everything else is just in game,
Yeah.
I personally don't want to pay $40 for this game.
Nope.
Um, or
I'm good.
it's or $29.99, 29 or 30. Is it $40?
It's $40. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally don't want to pay $40 for this game. For it to be another Overwatch clone, because I mean it's doing the same thing Overwatch did.
Yeah.
At least they actually have a roadmap for their story though, unlike Overwatch. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if people like it, man, they're gonna buy it. I just personally don't think it's gonna be that
I don't think it's gonna
game.
be big. I have a feeling this game's gonna fucking. We might not get to season 3 in April.
Yeah,
That's
I can
my
definitely
vibe.
see
That's
this.
my vibe at the moment. Cause yeah, it's just I don't like. I'm sorry, but
Who is this for?
I don't know. Yeah, I really don't understand what the target audience is here, and I think they just. I'm more puzzled by why PlayStation acquired this studio. You know, what did they see in this game that made them want to acquire them? I mean, this was like not even that long ago that the acquisition happened either, you know? So clearly they liked something a lot about this game, but no battle pass, no paid expansions. You're going to try to survive off cosmetic microtransactions, which I'm sorry, I just in this game just doesn't. I feel like it's not. It's going to be like PUBG, you know, where you're buying like a sweatshirt. You know, it's like I don't. I don't have a strong anticipation that the skins are going to be really really great in this game, but maybe I'll be wrong about that. Who knows? The gameplay certainly looks fun from what I've seen, but like you said, dude, I don't want to pay $40 for this game. Like if this was free to play, I think I'd certainly give it a shot. You know, actually, but the fact that it's $40, like I don't care. Like I don't want to spend $40 on this game. You know, so um, I don't know. I don't really know what their way out is. I don't think they really have one. Unfortunately, I think they just have to go forward with the plan they have and hope for the best. But nothing in this announcement is inspiring much interest from me personally. So, all right, let's move on to our final story. Dragon Age: The Veilguard has gotten a release date, and it is coming on Halloween this year, October 31st. Um, are you excited?
Uh, yeah, I'm reluctantly excited. That's what I am. I am gonna buy this first day, but I'm just keeping my expectations tempered. The game looks good, but I need to see a little bit more. We're probably gonna get a little bit more before everything comes out.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean there was a trailer that accompanied this, but I mean it sounds like you probably need to have played Inquisition though to play this game from a story perspective. No.
and I am not about to play through Inquisition again.
Well, you've already played it though, right? Did you ever
Yeah,
beat it?
yeah, I beat it.
Okay. Because a lot of the characters from that game supposedly are going to be in this game too, so including one of the main villain.
But it sounds like They're gonna do a lot of DLC. I didn't play the DLC. The game was just so long, Justin. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's like 4 DLCs I think for this for Inquisition, bro.
really.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 to 4. I may be over exaggerating, but I think it's like there's at least 2 DLCs, like lengthy DLCs for the game too.
Yeah. I think the other thing I kind of taken out of this too is I don't know why, like, did Inquisition look this way where it looks kind of stylized?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this isn't new.
Yeah. They kind of started it with Dragon Age
Two.
2. Yeah.
Okay. Because because the original was not like this at all.
Yeah. No, they definitely started it with 2.
Okay. Because that's the only one I played, so I'm just basing it off that. That game was much more realistic looking in what it was trying to go for.
They started doing more stylized with 2, and then they kind of solidified it with Inquisition.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, certainly looks like an interesting game. I'm not gonna get to it because if I need to play Inquisition first, like, dude, there's no
If I was
shot.
you, I'll just watch like a synopsis or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't think it's
Inquisition's
worth it?
fun. Yeah, Inquisition's fun, but
Is
I
it
don't
just
know.
too
Depend.
much? Like it's just too
Yeah,
much.
it's
Like it's
too
like one of the
much.
first games where we were talking about bloat. You know, like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So like, because even DJ mentioned it because I completely forgot about it. Um, they have like MOBA game or mobile, not MOBA, but mobile game mechanics in the game.
yeah,
Uh, so you will send people out on missions, but you don't see anything. It's like how you're trying to do progression in a mobile game where you like click it and it's like, all right, you gotta wait 20
20
minutes for the
hours. Yeah,
yeah,
or whatever.
and you
Yeah,
have to really actually wait 20 hours, like in game
yeah,
6 hours, 20 hours for it to get done.
yeah.
Um, there are some missions that take a day, 24 hours.
Ugh.
Like, yeah, man, it's actually insane. And the only way to cheese it is to like unplug your Xbox or whatever you're playing on and like fuck with the game clock.
Yeah, fuck
That's the
that.
only
That's not
yeah,
worth it.
yeah. And there's some stuff like that you would actually need to get from it. To like you're trying to get a certain build. Like for me, I was trying to get a certain build. I call it like my fourth Hokage build, where I throw a dagger and like ninjutsu clones come out of me and I can teleport over there and kill them.
Yeah,
So I had that build, but I had to build up stuff, and yeah, it took me a while, but I had to cheese the game. I had to play some of the game offline, and if I wanted to go online, then I played online or whatever. um but yeah, I that's the only aspect I didn't like about the game. um and unfortunately, like when you do side quests, the side quest is tied to that, so you would have to like you're going to have to interact with that part of the game, if that makes any sense.
yeah,
um
yeah.
and I just don't think it's worth it, in my opinion. And they haven't patched it out. I played that in 2020, and they haven't patched that shit out. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, it's coming soon. I mean, less than 3 months from now, we will have this game in our hands. So, October 31st, and look forward to it. I guess. I mean, it's been a decade at this point, and
fuck man, we're old as shit. That's so crazy.
yeah, dude. Well, just I was thinking about that the other day, dude. The last decade of BioWare is such a travesty. You know, they released Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. Those are the 2 games they released in the last decade. You know, isn't that crazy? What a waste.
Hey man, you talk to Tiara though. She loves Mass Effect and drama. She think that's like one of the best Mass Effects. She will still debate me to this day about Mass Effect and drama.
The combat was good. That was it.
It was. I'm not gonna lie. The combat was fire.
Combat was fun. That was it, though. I couldn't. The thing is, the rest of the game was so bad that I couldn't stick around for the combat. Like I couldn't get through it. The game had no soul, dude. I got through an entire planet, I think, or 2, and I just was like, this game.
And the only way I got through the game,
yeah,
I played it at night when I was, because my manager, when I was working an overnight IT job, my manager did allow us to bring our game consoles in, and I just played it at night because we couldn't connect to the internet, obviously, but I can play it offline.
Yeah,
and that's what I did. So I just played it and I beat it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That would be the only way I would do it too. Is if my job let me play video games. Cause yeah, dude, I was like, I got through the second planet. I think it was it was the one it was the one that was like kind of swampy or
Yeah.
whatever. And God, I was so fucking bored. Like by the end of it, I was just like, this is fucking miserable. You show up to like a camp and like everybody was fighting each other or some shit, or they were getting attacked, and it's just like you didn't feel any fucking urgency at all. Um,
Yeah, the soul of the game, the soul of Mass Effect Andromeda definitely doesn't have the soul of Mass Effect.
yeah,
The only time I felt something is when if you get further enough in the game. I mean, spoilers, I guess, for
I don't
anyone
give
who
a
played
shit. Yeah.
it. You do encounter a codex from Liara, and she sends like
Oh
you listen
yeah,
to
no,
her.
that happens really early in the game, actually.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know, man. Like,
It's just a cameo for something that was actually good. You know, it's like that's not to Andromeda's credit at all, really. You know, the only part of the game where you actually enjoyed anything was a reference to the older games. Like that's not good.
yeah.
Anything
Um,
original to Andromeda was bad. Like it's just I don't know.
I'm trying to think of like storylines that I genuinely enjoyed. Um,
I can't even remember one, dude. I really can't. There was some
yeah, there
like
were
there
some
was some
characters that were
like
cool. They
yeah.
were okay, you know. I actually like the female Torian. I think she's really cool.
Mhm.
I like how they didn't try to push her on you as like the next Garen, Garrus, whatever. Sorry, not
Yeah.
Garen, but Garrus. They didn't try to push her on you like that. Um, or maybe they did. Maybe that's why I didn't like it. I don't know. The game felt really like I actually did not like any of my party members. I do remember that. The only person I liked was like the Krogan who kind of reminded me of Rex. But that was about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I do distinctly remember hating every single one of my party members. I hated Vera. I hated I forgot the black guy's name. I hated him. He was a dick. I hated the fucking Asari. I forgot her name. She was like all quirky and like, oh my god, hey guys,
Dude,
like she was.
I don't remember anything. I barely remember characters, bro.
I remember I hated her. But she was like a young Asari. Like obviously we
Yeah.
meet Liara when she's like, well, actually no, we meet Liara when she's kind of young too. She's not in her maiden stage yet.
Yep.
But yeah, we meet this Asari like she's like before Leona, so she's like still a teenager, quote unquote, like a couple, maybe like 200 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like I was just like, okay, like I didn't like her. I did like I said, I did like the female Torian. I thought she was pretty cool. And I did like the guy that reminded me of Rex.
What about the female human or the male human?
Shepherd or Pathfinder. That's what I mean.
No. The black guy, and then there was like
I didn't like the black guy. I thought he
white,
didn't have enough
woman.
agency.
Yeah, the white
Yeah,
woman.
and
with blonde hair.
was the white woman with the Karen haircut.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. 100%, dude.
Yeah, I didn't like Vera. Vera was, you know what? Vera was okay. You know what I didn't like about Vera? They tried to make her. How do I put this? You know how Vi is in like League of Legends, where she's like, "Yeah, I'm so cool, like I'm the dude, bro." But it's like natural to her when you play Vi or when you watched Arcane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They tried to make Vera Vi. They tried to make her the dude, bro, but your girl. Like, oh, this is my girl. This is my girl best friend. This is my platonic best. And it was just like, it didn't feel natural. I was just like, bro, I don't like you. Like, stop trying to be like, stop trying to fist bump me, bro. I don't fucking like you. Like,
man, I hate that game. I'm sorry.
So, like, the characters, this is also, you got to understand too, Andromeda was made in the heart and soul in the war of Gamergate. So it was leaning heavily towards like anti-Gamergate.
Yeah.
And it was really trying to push that narrative. So I guess I can understand why certain people like it because of that aspect. I never thought Mass Effect was crazy. I don't know. I mean, they had some crazy stuff, like obviously, what's her face, giant ass in fucking 3, the reporter lady or whatever, and then
That's
Miranda.
a Chobot.
Yeah,
Oh, that shit was so weird. That shit is weird to this fucking day, dude. Like,
so obviously they had some stuff in there, uh, but I always thought Mass Effect was kind of open or more, you know, I guess liberal would be the term. I don't fucking know.
yeah.
But uh, yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda, bro, it just went it threw everything that it learned from Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and just threw that shit out the
Well,
window as
just
far
like
as
cranked it
storytelling.
up to 11, dude.
Yeah, and I don't
Like,
mind stuff like that at all.
we're gonna
It's
have a
just
gay character, but they're gonna be super gay. You know, it's like,
well, no, it's like we're gonna have a gay character, but we're gonna make them super like dude bro-ish. Like we're gonna
yeah,
break the stereotype, the norm. It's like
yeah.
I guess cool, but like don't do it in such a cringy way. Like I don't mind having a gay character, but can they just be an interesting character? Like can them not being gay, can them being gay not be the only thing about the
Their
character?
identity, their whole
Yeah, their
identity.
identity. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't care. I didn't care for it.
Like, hey, I'm gay. It's like,
And yeah, and then in the black character, he was like he wasn't even like a stereotype. I would have rather him be a stereotype. He was so nothing. He was such of a nothing character. Like he brought nothing to the table as far as personality or anything. I don't literally remember any of his quirks, any of his nothing about his storyline, nothing, because he was just such a nothing character. It was such a safe and like I don't want to do nothing with this character type character. That it was I was like, bro, can you just be ignorant or something, bro? Like, just be a stereotype or something. Like, I don't know, eat some chicken, something, bro. Do something, bro. Please, like, have some kind of soul in you or something, man.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like,
I
at
think the
least,
coolest, dude. Sorry, keep going.
yeah, I'm gonna say at least Jacob in Mass Effect 3 and 2 and 3, like. I mean, yeah, you had the stereotypical like, oh, he has father issues or whatever. Black guy has father issues, but he was like a military person. He had a personality. That was his thing, and like you know, like he had a personality, you know what I'm saying? He liked to follow structure and order and all the other stuff like that. You knew who that character was. That other guy, bro, he just
Yeah,
nothing, man. Like no soul. Like you said, just no
yeah.
soul, man. I don't know.
Well, I think the thing my biggest takeaway the 2 times I've tried to play Andromeda is that they killed the coolest character in the prologue, which was, Ryder's dad.
Yeah.
Like he's the most interesting person in the game and he fucking dies in the first 3 hours. It's like, okay, cool. And then everyone else is just lame. The character you're playing, Ryder, is boring as
Oh
fucking
my
hell.
god, bro.
Like,
They have I play as a female writer. I just thought she had no agency
I
in the
tried
game.
both and it
They're
was the
both
same.
equally bad. Okay.
It was the same, yeah.
Oh my! It was this one part where like I think one of the crewmates was flirting with me because she's like one of the crewmates was like a lesbian and she was like, and I was playing. I was like, I was going either way. I'm like, man, whoever shows me interest, bro, we're there. So like it was this one part where they were like trying to interact with each other and it was supposed to be meant as like a cute like, oh, I'm embarrassed type situation, but it came off as like a cringy like anime like, oh my god, you like me, oh I like you too, and then like even the
I know,
yeah,
ski this.
I was just like, oh my god, this is so cringe. Even like the other pilot was like, oh my god, this is I think he literally said this is cringe. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking cringe as fuck, bro. Like it's not good, man. I don't know, man. Combat was fire though.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dragon Age, we got way off track again. Dragon Age, October 31st.
Interesting enough, though, Dragon Age Inquisition did have really good characters. They do.
Okay. Cool. Well, some of those characters will be in the Veilguard, I believe. So look forward to that. All right. Montrell, that's all we got this week. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out today?
Nope, that's it.
All right, everybody. If you like the show, please like the show, review the show, subscribe to the show whenever your feeds you are listening to it on, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at Thundernut01, and the show is at the Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. That'll be it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week.